Peace and power to the descendants of my ancient mother. My name is Brother Legend. What up, what up? Welcome to the live, brothers and sisters. Tap like. Answer the questions down below. Let me know what you're thinking. I will let people up here when we get to 2K likes, so keep tapping. Let me know what y'all think. Is it a different experience? And does it help us to separate? When we get to 2K likes, I'll let somebody up. I'm gonna read some of these comments. We all have to assimilate and look respectable for jobs and lives that are responsible. What does that mean? I don't know what that has to do with anything we're talking about here today. Just want to remind y'all we are not here to argue. We are not here to argue. No arguments allowed. We're not arguing today. It's a peaceful day, man. It's Monday. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure where y'all are at, but hopefully the sun is shining brightly. You know what I'm saying? No arguing today. I don't feel like it. For some reason, you think you're exempt. It's not a black or white thing, it's life. What are you talking about, Kiwi? Does anyone know what Kiwi is talking about? If you want to come up on the panel, feel free. You can come up, you can join. I'm going to let guests come up and answer the questions for us. When we get to 2K likes, we're almost there. 200 more. We just need 2 people to fill up the bar in the top left. And I will let y'all come on up. Talk to me. Why don't y'all pick up a book? Which book should we pick up, Poot? I have no clue. Thankful. I don't even know what is being discussed. This person is shadowboxing. I think making biracial separate can be harmful because it dismisses mixed kids with black phenotypes. Okay, that's an interesting take. I think I would concur with that. I'll have to concur with that. I don't see where it's constructive. At all. Anyone else would like to answer the questions? Feel free down in the comments. Not sure what using AC has to do with anything. Okay.
Hello.
Hi, could you give us your age, race, and pronouns, please?
My name is Ariana. I'm Black and Hispanic, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm 18.
Okay, talk to us.
So as far as the experience being different, I would say yes. Phenotypically, I only look black, but my hair is pretty long. Not that black women can't have long hair or anything, but I would say I was kind of like, you could say, fetishized or put on a pedestal a little bit, just because they knew that I was biracial. So I don't believe that the experience is the same. Um,
Okay, so what about being biracial did they like? Did they fetishize,
I
rather?
believe, I believe it was my light skin. I don't. It was my light skin. My eyes are light brown, and I had really long hair.
Do you believe that
And
there's quote unquote monoracial black people that have light skin, brown eyes, and
of course, but I think it's being mixed is fetishized. Like being mixed in general is pretty fetishized, and in the black community you're kind of put on, biracials are put on a pedestal, and lighter skinned women are definitely put on a pedestal.
I'm not negating any of that. I'm just curious to know what you're saying about biracials is put on a pedestal, or
Their
what
proximity to
you're.
whiteness.
There are black people with a proximity to whiteness, no?
Yeah, and I said they are also put on a pedestal. I said that.
Right, but what I'm saying
And
is, if you're saying this is not the same as that, and every time I bring up what that is made of, it's the same thing this is made of, then we're talking about the same thing.
I
Why?
disagree.
What
I
is the
disagree.
distinction
Okay,
about biracial
I can
people
give you an example.
that
I
makes them
disagree.
different?
I'll give you an example. I disagree. Okay, so one time, this was like we were young, we were in middle school, and we were having a conversation about black women being angry. That's what we were talking about. And once it came out that I was Hispanic, they turned it into spicy. It was cool, and it was like, it was no longer she's angry, just not because phenotypically I am black. I look black. You get what I'm saying? But since
When
they
you say
heard that I was,
Hispanic, do you mean culturally, or do you mean as another race? What happened, y'all? Who touched the screen? It's
my
one of my
father is a
moderators.
my father is a Mexican Puerto Rican. He's Mexican by race.
Mexican and Puerto Rican are both
Yeah, he was.
nationalities, so
Yeah,
it
but
sounds
his
like
family, they're Mexican. So, but he's from Puerto Rican.
Mexican
Puerto
is
Rico.
not a race. So there
Well,
are Lupita
The
Nyong'o. Do
Hispanic
you know
community is
Lupita? You
very.
know,
It's a
please,
lot of
please,
it's a
please.
lot
You,
of
you you
mixed.
talk over me a lot. Like it's my live. Relax. All right. So Lupita Nyong'o, I may not know who she is. She was in Black Panther. She is a Mexican. Mexican is a nationality. Puerto Rican is a nationality. If your parent is indigenous to those lands, then that is an indigenous American or Native American, however they want to, identify.
Okay, so this is what I was trying to explain to you. Just like African Americans say they're African American because they don't know which country in Africa they come from, with Hispanics it's the same thing. They
No, it's
don't
not.
know, and especially with colonization, Hispanics are usually so mixed that they don't really know their real race. That's why they say I'm Hispanic.
No, that's cap.
How are you gonna tell me?
How you gonna tell me?
Are you Hispanic?
Hispanic is not a race. So
I'm not saying that it
I can
is.
speak with understanding that Hispanic
Okay.
is an ethnicity.
All right.
Hispanic just means that your people were colonized by Spaniards. Hispanic just means that you speak a Spanish language.
Okay, I
There's,
understand what you're saying. I'm saying, okay, so you know how African Americans say they're black because they don't know where they
that's
originate
not why
from.
they
That's
say
how it
they're
is
black.
with.
And it's interesting that you, as a
Okay.
mixed person, would think that that's the reason we say we're black, because that speaks to how you're projecting
So why
how
do you say? So
you don't
why
know
is
where
it you're
black
black?
people are from. That's not the same thing as saying black people call themselves black because they don't know where they're from.
The majority of African Americans do not know what country in Africa they are from. So why is
What?
it black?
What? First of all, when we were taken from Africa, the countries that were there were not countries. First of all, so that's, I don't know. I honestly feel like this might this life might be a little advanced for you, and
Excuse?
I don't like to I don't
Oh
want to
my
fault
God.
people.
I feel
It
like you're
is.
not trying to understand my point of view. It's very combative.
No,
I thought
no,
we were
no.
having a conversation.
You're a little bit misinformed about a few things. First of all, Mexican as a race was wild.
I
Hispanic as
understand.
a race was
I
wild.
didn't say that. I'm trying to.
Coming up and saying that you're special or something, or people fetishize you because you're biracial, when really they just want a proximity to whiteness through your recessive genetics. Like, that's wild, because there are black people with those same recessive traits. So it's just, it's given, like, you're a little confused. It's just, I don't want to put you in a
Confusion is
box
coming from
where
you not listening to me. You're not listening. You're not trying to
I've
understand where I'm
heard
coming from.
enough. To be honest, I want to move on.
Yeah, this is ignorant. I'm gonna get off of
No,
this.
it's not. We got
Yeah,
plenty of
okay,
books,
that's enough.
and we actually can read. So let's go to the next guest, DOS. If y'all want to know more about these type of topics, I would encourage a lot of y'all that want to understand who black people are, what black people are, why they call themselves black, all of that, to look up a few books, and I'll give some to you. Look up The African Origin of Civilization by Sheikh Anta Diop. Look up The Destruction of Black Civilization by Dr. Chancellor Williams. And if you want to know more about biracial people uh, and how they identify these certain social systems that we have, then I encourage you to look up Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, The ISIS Papers. I'm going to move on because that was a little bit low hanging fruit, y'all. I don't want to argue with no one today. Dose, give us your age, race, and pronouns.
I'm 25. I'm black and white, and pronouns she, her.
All right, talk to us.
I wanted to chime in what the other person was saying earlier about how she was black and Hispanic, and how she was like lighter skin. She's obviously another race. I don't know what it was. I know 100% where I'm from. I took my DNA test. I am also Hispanic. My family is from Honduras, so I'm black, white, and I have about 8% of indigenous in me because from the Honduran side. So I know like my whole background and everything.
So, would you also classify Hispanic as a race?
No, no, absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
Because there's a box where it says your race,
Right.
and you can click white, and then you can click non-Hispanic white, or you see what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
white is part of the Hispanic diaspora. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. When I check the boxes, I don't know about other biracial people, but I always put that I'm black and I'm white. I always put both. I don't just put one.
Well, you're not both. You're
But
black, but I don't want to get into that identity crisis that you might be having.
I
But
am black
no
and I
one is
am
going, no
white.
police officer is going to pull you over and give you half a ticket.
Oh
No one's
no,
going to say
no. I
you can
know
wear
that
half your hair to the courtroom.
no, I
That's
know
just
I'm
not going to happen.
phenotypically black. I know I walk in person.
You can't be black and white. That's the reason why we got the term people of color, because you can't be a people of color and a people with color at the same time. You either got it or you don't. If you don't got it, then you're part of the privileged class. It's that simple. You can't be part of the privileged class and part of the oppressed class in the same person. That don't work that way. You're only going to get treated one way.
Sorry, I got cut off from a phone call, but I was gonna say that I know that I'm phenotypically black. I know as I walk around on this planet, as people see me, I'm a black
What does
woman. They don't.
phenotypically black mean?
I phenotypically look like a black person. Phenotypes. I have the typical, what you would say, black people hair. I have the facial structure of a black person. Like I'm looked at as a black woman. I'm not looked at as mixed or, you know? So I understand, like, to society, I am a black woman. But when it comes to paperwork, that I just put
Now, when it comes
that
to
I'm both
paperwork,
races.
when it comes to society, when it comes to anyone outside of maybe you and your selected friend group that accepts you for whatever or doesn't know anything about the class, designations of race, they might agree with you. So, in your personal life, you might be half black, half white. But I guarantee you, because the rest of the world is not going to see you as half white, you
Yeah, they
black.
don't. I know. I
Right. So
completely, yeah,
but
I
see
agree
that
with
that's
that.
like so then that's why I'm saying this is because it's like, what's the point of saying half white if you don't have access to whiteness? Like, what's that like? That's like saying like I got $1 million locked into a safe and I don't know the keys. I don't have the code to get into the safe. But every time somebody asks me if I have $1, I say I got $1,001. Like, what's the point? No, you don't. You don't got
The
no money.
the
You
point
don't have
is
access to it.
the point is that my family is still white. Like my family is white. Like I still have white family. I can't deny the other part of me. I have white
Deny, right? So you
family.
can't deny
Why would
the people, white members in your family. Who has asked you to deny them?
I'm also white, so if I deny putting on my paper to me that I'm only black and black only, that's denying. If I'm walking around saying I'm only black, that's denying. I
No,
agree
no,
with
no, no,
you
no. But see,
that
this is what
I
I'm trying to say.
phenotypically.
You're not denying anything by being a black person with white family members. I'm a black person. Well, I have very, very light, fair-skinned family members, but I know plenty of
Mhm.
black people with white family members. It doesn't make you a different category of oppression because you have even a white mother. There are black people that have been adopted by white people. There's plenty of black children in America. It's actually a part of an issue that we could talk about in another live. But there are plenty of black children in America right now, millions of them getting adopted by white parents. So proximity don't change who you are. Whatever you think your mixture is doesn't change who you are. You still don't have access to whiteness, yet you will sit up here, I'm sure, and fight over and over again to protect the same people that violently brought you into racial relationships in the first place. We have to remember that race is violence. Race, the category of race, was introduced through violence. It's not something we chose to participate in. That being the case, interracial, the idea of black people and quote unquote white people coming together and doing things was introduced through violence. So when you say I'm half white, you are also, even though you phenotypically don't present, even though in social status you are not white, you don't have all the same privileges as I'm sure your white family members do. Even if a police officer showed up, they're going to look at you differently than they're going to look at the rest of your family members. You still will still sit here and try to defend those who have violently caused your situation and all this
Well,
in the
I'm
first
not
place.
technically defending anybody. I'm just saying, like, that's what my race is. Like, we all know what race is
Your
construed
race is
by
not white.
society.
I hate to break it to you.
So my DNA test is wrong.
There is no such thing as race DNA. Now you go into the man that did that stuff to the Ish people in World War II. Now that's how you
But
sound like. Ain't no such thing as race genetics.
okay.
I got massive blood in me. I'm different than the rest of you. That's how you sound. It's wild. Nah, it don't
It
work that
that
way.
okay, let's not try to twist my words into making it sound like that. All I said is that I'm racially black and white and I claim
No,
both
you're
of
not.
those.
You're not racially black
I
and
don't
white.
under I don't
That's like
know
saying. That's
how
like saying.
I
That's
don't
like
know how you
saying.
can deny that.
That's like saying
It's
instead of
kind of
having a coffee
crazy.
with cream in it, that's like saying I have coffee and cream in the same cup. Do you want some? I have coffee and cream in the same cup. It's
So
not coffee.
everybody
It's
so
not. It's
everybody
not coffee with
who's
some milk. This is
so
coffee and cream.
so if somebody who has a white dad and a black mother, what are they?
Any child with a black parent is black. They're black with a white parent.
Okay, what if they look like
Um,
Logic?
typically,
If they look
typically,
like Logic, they don't just have a black parent. first of all.
No, they can because phenotypes work wonders. That you can have
Right.
two black
But
parents and look like
when it comes
Logic.
to people that
So
look like Logic, they can also, it comes down to, you know what? Since y'all are so confused today on this live, I'm going to break down how you know if you're black or not. Let's go over the 3 questions to ask yourself if you are black or not. We call this the diaspora game. All right. So here's how you find out if you're black enough. The first question is, do you have African ancestry? That's the first question. Going back 2 generations, 3 generations. Do you have African ancestry? In Logic's case, the answer is yes. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't mean you black. Calm down. Calm down. Didn't say to mean you black. Do you have African ancestry? Are you about to answer?
oh, yes, I do.
Okay. So I wasn't expecting you to answer, but you can answer if you want. Everyone else can answer in their mind. Do you have African ancestry? That's the first question. The second question is or do you have an African phenotype? That's the second question. Or do you have an African phenotype? You don't have to have both. But if you have one or the other, you may proceed to the third question. Does Logic have an African phenotype? No. Mm-mm. I don't see it. Some of y'all might see it. I don't see it. Melanin is in your hair, it's in your skin, it's in your eye color. I don't see enough melanin on Logic. I don't think he has an African phenotype. Okay. But he does have a parent with African ancestry. Is Logic black? Here's the third question. The third and most important question is, and we need to ask this to ourselves, does this person or do you identify full time in your dark closet, when you're going to bed at night, when you wake up in the morning? Do you identify full time as black or African? Logic, the answer would be no. He says he is biracial. That being the case, Logic is not part of the black community. Logic has chosen other, and that's okay. If he wants to go ahead and do that, let him. So at the end of the day, Logic is not black because Logic didn't grow up black. Logic don't got black in here where it matters the most. We as black people can tell that. And that's why we don't accept Logic around. That's actually what unalived his career. He went on the Breakfast Club and Charlemagne pressed him a few times and said, "You a black man?" And he was like, "No, I'm biracial. I'm biracial." So that's kind of like starting the decline of his career. That was kind of a whole thing. So biracial people that identify as a description instead of a race are a part of the problem, and that's why we don't want them around.
So do you disagree with calling biracial people biracial? Do you want to call them black?
It's a description. I'll say it again. Listen to me. All of y'all in the back, listen to me. I know y'all might be in the back of the bus. Listen to me. Here we go. Biracial is a description of your parents and your origin, not your racial designation in the system of white supremacy. It's not the same thing. There is no biracial race. There's no biracial food. There's no biracial landia. There's no biracial culture. That biracial could mean many things. It don't mean you're just black and white. It don't mean you're just Asian and white. It don't mean you're just black and Asian or whatever you want to mix with, like whatever. It don't matter. Biracial is a description. But some black people don't understand that black is something to be proud of, and so they cleave to any other identity that they can grasp onto. They say, my hair is straight, so I'm different than the rest of you. And they try, because of a thing called last place anxiety, to distance themselves. Dr. Joy DeGruy is a clinical psychologist that wrote a book called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. In that book, she said one of the effects, one of the symptoms of post-traumatic slave syndrome in our community is a negative association with one's own group. Because we don't want to associate, we want to distance ourselves. And so, because it behooves you. It behooves you. Shoot. A lot of black people that could cling on to anything but blackness. They go around. I'm Choctaw. What are you talking about? I'm an Israelite. I'm this. I'm that. It's an identity crisis. All right, we're gonna go to the next guest. Vi, give us your age, race, and pronouns. If you don't care, please get out my comments. A lot of y'all say, who
Um,
cares? Who cares? If you don't care, then go. Just keep swiping. I don't stay places I don't care. Go ahead, talk to us, Vi.
my pronouns are she, her. I'm black and I'm 19 years old. Uh, okay, so for your first question, is the biracial black experience different from the, you know, regular black experience or whatever? I'll say I guess it depends on what they look like, because for J. Cole that you got up there, people don't really see him as a biracial man only because of his looks and how he presents himself versus what he's been through. Versus with Logic, he looks more like a white man, and people see him as a white man. If it had not been for him saying, "Oh, I'm biracial, I'm biracial, I'm biracial," people wouldn't know. So, I do believe that it's really only one race, the human race, but our experiences with it's like what makes the culture. You know what I mean? Um, what we go through. That's why I just I said Cole is black. He's mixed, but I see him as a black man. But Logic is a no. Black people say about racial people. Uh, I mean some of them aren't, but I'll say our experience, like I said, is what makes it.
It's what makes what?
Our experiences is what makes it different from a biracial person. So
Experiences.
yeah, like I'll say, because the race as a whole, we're all human at the end of the day. We all bleed the same. We're all
Yeah, but
pretty
that we
much.
don't live in that reality, sister. You know that.
Unfortunately, that's the case.
Okay,
But
so let's keep it in reality.
I'll say our experiences is what makes us different. Like who our ancestors were, where we come from, what we've been through, what our ancestors and the people who have come before us have been through versus the way we live. So, like I said, for people like J. Cole, I see him as a black man. Do I think people like him hurt our people? No, not really. For people like Logic, do I think they hurt our people? I'll say somewhat. You know,
Hmm.
only
Okay.
because of the way that people start to perceive us when they say, "Oh, well, I'm mixed, this, that, and the third," and then they say, "Oh, I don't know how to identify with my black side. I don't know how to identify with my white side." At the end of the day, that's not on us. That's on your parents. Because
So
even when
so
people have two black parents, kids come out light skinned when they have two black parents. We all know that
exactly,
the
my
color of your
nephew.
skin
Yep.
is that's just how it is. That's melanin works in all sorts of different ways. So depending on what you look like, that doesn't matter. I'll say like if you're mixed, you're mixed, but it's like how you present yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that was the third question. If you were here for the diaspora game, that's the third question. J. Cole, the difference between J. Cole and Logic is that when you ask J. Cole if he's a black man, he says yes, with no hesitation. When you ask Logic if he's a black man, he says I'm biracial. Oh, by the way, I have a white mother, and they both have white mothers, both of them. But J. Cole has internalized a positive association with his black identity. So, in a world where we're taught to hate ourselves, J. Cole has actually fought to love himself and love
Yeah,
his proximity to blackness. So that's why there's a difference.
yeah. And do the second question, do biracial people separating their identity help or hurt the black people? Um, I'll say yeah, because in a way, a lot of them make it seem like, oh, when people have mixed kids, their black side of the family isn't accepting and helping them learn where they come from, or this, that, and the third, or helping them learn how to balance being I'll put this in quotes, biracial person. But in my eyes, if you look black or you look like your black parent and you have black features, the world is going to treat you as a black person. Everybody else is going to treat you as a black person. So, I mean, you'll grow up being that way anyways.
True. Okay. Well, thank you for that contribution to the conversation. Yo, don't forget y'all to keep tapping like, tapping like. We're trying to get to 10K likes in here. So keep tapping like when we get to 10K. I'll turn the comments back on. Uh, David, give us your age, race, and pronouns, please. Okay, talk to it.
Oh, we can't hear him anyway.
Oh, no, nobody can hear you. It's okay. You can go. If anyone is offended or um doesn't like feel comfortable in this space, you may leave. You don't have to be here. Including especially like the last person if you don't understand the things I'm talking about in short sentences pretty much. A lot of this has a nuance to it. I'll admit that. And yeah, it's hard to express all that in a short conversation. Let me go to the next guest. La Chameleon, give us your age, race, and pronouns. La Chameleon. La Chameleon, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you. Talk to us.
So
Give us your
I
age, race, and pronouns.
I'm 28, African American woman.
All right. Talk to us.
Pretty much I don't have much to say. All I wanted to say is that in the world we live in, I guess to simplify everything, it doesn't matter what people see themselves as, the way that the world's designed. Once you're put into a category, that's just what it is. So by saying that, I'm just saying if you have any type of blackness or African American in you, it doesn't really matter about the other side as far as the way the world sees you. It doesn't matter because when you try to, like when you said earlier about the white privileges, I personally, you can tell people for the sake of them getting to know you and say, yeah, I'm half white, I'm this and that, but to kind of display it is kind of pointless because really what is your purpose of it? What are you expecting to gain from it? What are you doing? Like what do you okay, if you say, okay, yeah, I'm black and everybody sees you look black, and then you say, but yeah, I got some white in you. So now it's like when you say that, what is the purpose? What are you looking to gain after you say that? because
Mm-hmm.
because clearly you look one way. So now when a person points something out, we all know when a person points something out, they want some type of response or recognition for it. And that's anything. That's like if you wearing some type of clothes, you're wearing an ugly shoe, but you point out, I paid $2,000 for these. What's your reason for pointing that out?
Mm-hmm.
You want somebody to recognize something. Oh, you want them to recognize maybe you have money or recognize you this and you that. So my thing is, if you look black and you're African American and everybody can see it, why even? Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not racist, but my dad says we're half Indian and got a little bit of Dutch in us. I don't think I've ever repeated that to anybody. I don't. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't. It's such a part of me that I don't care about because I don't want to tap into that. I don't really care about that. That doesn't matter, to me. My dad said, I don't have that much rhythm sometimes when I dance, and I was like, oh, that's where that come from. But for me, it's like it's not nothing for me to really be like pointing out unless I feel like I'm trying to gain something from it. So that's my point. You know what I'm saying? That's my point. When people who point that out, oh, I got this white in me. What are you looking for? Because the white man is not going to give you any leniency. It's
Right.
never going to get you on that other side.
That's
It's
facts.
not. You know what
That's
I'm
Can,
facts.
saying?
can I quickly tap in?
Oh wait, hold on, Shy. We're gonna come to you.
Hmm.
That's facts. Look, La Chameleon. I think you might be the first person to understand the assignment here today. And Peace, love, unity to all
Yeah.
our biracial
Thank
brothers and
you. Thank you
sisters.
so much. Thank you so much. And everybody, like I said, I have nothing against anyone, but we have to adjust to, like he said, reality in the world we live in. And when we point these things out about ourselves, we got to ask ourselves, what are we trying to get out of it, and how is it benefiting us? Is it going to hurt us or help us? Like we're trying to make things easy for ourselves, and we don't need no extra to be noticed for nothing extra because we're already dealing with so many other things. And that's my point. But y'all stay blessed. I hope everybody can understand to some degree what's going on, and what he's trying to get through. I'm not going to say I 100% agree with every single thing, but I definitely understand the point you're trying to make. So we're on the same page with that.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming up, sister.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the next guest. Daniel Ross, give us your age, race, and pronouns, please.
Yo, my name is Daniel. I'm 27. I am African American. According to Ancestry, I actually did this shit. My parents told me I was Indian. I wasn't. It was all a lie. And my pronouns are he, him, his.
All right. Welcome,
And
brother.
I guess I'm glad to be here
Oh
because I
yeah,
love to
talk
argue.
to us.
So the point that I really wanted to bring up, I wanted to kind of like address first of all like the questions that are up here. Is the like I do feel like being biracial is a thing. I remember earlier in the conversation you were saying like biracial is not really like a race because you could be mixed with any two things, and I think that's where we kind of blur the line between race and ethnicity. Like I can be mixed with like two different Caribbeans. Like I can be mixed with Haitian and Jamaican. I can be mixed with two different types of Asian. I can be mixed with like Chinese and Japanese. Like these things are possible, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I think that when it comes to being biracial, it really means that I am simply somebody who is mixed of two different races. I do think race is like you said, it's a phenotype thing, and that phenotype represents itself visually. Race is a visual thing. There are black Mexicans and white Mexicans, the same way that there are black Africans and white Africans, right?
Mm-hmm.
I personally feel like there's no I don't really there's only a small detriment. Well, that's not I won't even say small detriment, but there is a detriment and a benefit to the involvement of biracial people, and I think that all depends on the intent behind the individual
Exactly.
rather than who they are or how they accept themselves. I don't think that being biracial and claiming to be black makes you black because that's just not a fact. Like logic is not black. This is a white man who's saying nigga because he has a black parent.
Whoa,
And I
whoa, whoa!
understand.
Please don't say the N word on the live, man.
Oh my bad. I forgot you
You
can't say
know.
that. I forgot. I
Yeah.
don't be on TikTok. I don't be on the lives like that. But
Mm-hmm.
like people saying like certain things like the N word while like not phenotypically being black, I feel like that's not really helpful. Or people bring up the fact that they're biracial as a means to amplify themselves or separate themselves from the entirety of the community. I don't think that's good, right? Like
I think when I say that Logic claiming to be biracial is the reason he's not black, that people think I'm just talking about what he titles himself
yeah.
and not how he identifies. Because even if he were to pretend to title himself something else, because it benefited him in that moment, I'm talking about how he identifies personally. You see what I'm saying? And we can tell when someone identifies as black personally or not. Like
I get
certain
you.
social cues, certain culture, differences that we're going to be able to see.
No,
And the reason that we get on high alert is because historically, biracial, people have been to a detriment to progress for our community, going all the way back to ancient Egypt, Angola during slavery, Haiti, and even here in the United States, the Blue Vein Society, decided to align with the oppressor. It didn't work out though because in the United States, the privileged class is the majority. The only time they create a buffer class between the oppressed and the oppressor is when the oppressor is the minority, like South Africa, where they have the colored people, like Tyler, the singer. So
yeah.
that's why it doesn't work here in the United States, but also globally, the reason why colored even exists in the first place is because they're trying to keep their community pure. So you being labeled colored is the reason that you are not pure, quote unquote. And so that would default you, according to hypo descent, to being part of the minority community. That's all. I'm
So
done.
that's one thing that the last part about like the idea that people identify as other than black as a way to keep their race pure or like their ethnicity pure. I don't
No,
know if
no,
I
no,
fully
no, no. I didn't say black. I'm talking about the privileged
like.
class. You got it mixed up. The opposite
Oh, okay,
way.
I
The
thought you
people,
were talking about like
the
people
people
who are
that
like,
created race created it for a reason, right?
of course,
Right. So I'm saying I'm speaking to that reason. Those that don't know the reason, I'd encourage you to look up two books: Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, The ISIS Papers, and also Frank D. Wilderson, Dr. Frank D. Wilderson, Afro Pessimism. Those two books both talk about it.
got you. But yeah, I definitely think that we stand to gain things from unifying with people who also are biracial because there's a lot of biracial people who are visually black. You know what I mean? Like they're ethnically, or I guess like they're phenotypically black, but they're actually mixed. Like that happens a lot also. I think it happens not as much as we see people who are like, I'm mixed with like white, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm mixed. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'm part Cambodian rat, like whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like whatever people want to claim as half as a way to separate themselves or to augment themselves over what they deem to be the majority of the community. I think that really at the end of the day, like realistically, I don't think that human rights is going to be a thing unless, for one, like there has to be more than unity again. Like, of course, unity amongst black people of every nation, but I think it requires more than just that. Like, anti-blackness is a global system. You know what I mean? It's not something that pauses in any place. It's probably damn near universal. I'm pretty sure aliens would get here and be on that same shit if they got the opportunity. But I think that what we really need to do is, of course, unite as a black force, and then also we need to accept that we are connected to the trials and tribulations of other minorities. Now, will I be honest and say that a lot of these minorities will get up here and call me the same word that Logic be saying, even though he's half white? Yes. A lot of minorities are also anti-black because it's a universal system. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
think that the important thing is realizing beyond like the propaganda that's fed to us in media and tropes and comics and books and music and TV and music videos and everything. I think that once we realize, like, for example, the cop city that they've been building in Atlanta, they've been sending the police from that city to Palestine to train them with the IDF on how they can come back and beat us up and ruin our cities and victimize us, right?
You
Like
feel
I think
like you feel like they're colonized because of us, or we're colonized because of them.
I
Like
think we're both
what are
colonized
you saying
because
is
of
the
the same
dominant?
cause. I don't even really. I think that racism is and capitalism and imperialism are all really the same thing. It's really that one thing with just a few different names. The same way that we could call biracial people mixed, biracial, black or white. It's really all one thing. You know what I mean? And I think that the same system that has oppressed black people, indigenous people, and all the minorities in America is the same system that is telling all of the people in Palestine that they should not be worried, like that they do not deserve to have this land that they lived on for centuries, for generations. It's the same system that has Ethiopian people coming into Israel and getting them
And that's where I
like,
feel like as a community our focus should be.
yeah, our
You know
focus
what
should
I'm
be
saying?
aligning.
Because Israel's number one export is diamonds from Africa. So Israel's making money to oppress people and making money to do business with the United States straight up off African resources. So if we're going to stop the assault on Palestine and colonization and imperialism there, then why don't we just take the battery pack out and focus on our own community and look at how our own continent is being sourced, as ways to have means for the war.
And I think that my point is that it's connected. Like you can't really separate the struggle of Palestinians from the struggle of African Americans and you can't separate the struggle of African Americans from the struggle of Native Americans, which I think a lot of people don't want to talk about. A lot of the time when we have conversations about this, we leave that out. Like they were also oppressed and obliterated. You know what I mean? So like you really can't talk about Black liberation without talking about the liberation of people who are marginalized everywhere. Even within our own black community, people are like, yeah, I want everybody to be free. And tell somebody's black and trans, and tell somebody's black and gay, and tell somebody's black and ugly, and tell somebody's black and fat. You
Why
don't
is
even gotta
that?
bring. It don't even gotta be a specific thing.
Why
Like
is
any
that?
type of person that they don't like, it's like, oh, you can choke for real. Like, please get them out of here.
Why
Everybody
does that
can't be
exist
seen.
in the black community? Who taught them that? When did
I
they get
think that
introduced to those
I think
ideas?
that exists in the black community because the system of imperialism, racism, and colonialism has created anti-blackness universally, which also is in our own community. Like black people also hate on other black people because we're told that we're worse than other people. White people do all the shit that black people get called ghetto for from our own community, but when they do it, it's like it's a different thing. You know what I mean? There's hella
Mm.
artists who get up here and say like ridiculous shit from the white community, and people be like, I mean, well, yeah, that's what we expect. We didn't expect that from black people. Versus viewing it as like the system of anti-blackness has also pervaded into our own community. Like there's nowhere that's untouched by anti-blackness.
Hmm. Right. And who is anti-blackness to the detriment of? Do you think most, or do you think that's an equally shared oppression as well?
Well, I can't say the word that I would love to say because TikTok doesn't allow it. But black people, I think, like across the world, from every different place, are the uh, people who reap the most from negatively, at least, from anti-blackness. Like that's the reason that black people get killed so much, arrested so much.
But
That's the
I would
reason that.
say check out that book that I was talking about earlier, or maybe you can find like a lecture. But Frank D. Wilderson has a book called Afro Pessimism. Um, I want like try that out, man. Let me
Yeah,
like
I
if you
definitely will.
come back on the live, like if you ever dive into it, man. I would love to have that conversation with you. That's the book I
Well,
was talking
yes.
about earlier, where he talks about like the root of oppression, and I just think it's interesting.
All right, cool. Y'all have a good one.
Yes, sir. Shy, could you give us your age, race, and pronouns, please?
Yes, so age, I'm 30, race, I identify as black, and she, her, hers.
Peace.
So
What's going
just,
on?
yeah. So to start off, there was many complex conversations proposed, a lot of which I wanted to know on, but just to keep on the subject topic, I didn't know which one you wanted to follow up on.
Up to you. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see. So there was, I forgot what's her name, but before me, who said, some folks will name other ethnicities that they have as a form of like, why present that? As the last guy said, like, it depends on the intent of the person. So I'm Afro Caribbean, Indigenous, Taino, so on and so forth. I do present with more Afro featureisms, and in certain contexts, I will explain that I'm multi ethnic when I'm comfortable, when it's the right conversations. As far as it's for stereotypical things like, oh, you're pretty or your hair looks like this, to downplay that black beauty or that we're, or to get this agenda that we're monolithic. No, I don't mention it. But what I think is important to know is that with multi ethnic folks or folks who are outside of the US, they state their nationalism as like more context of where I'm from, or in notation of like, it's understood that we're multi ethnic. Therefore, I'm Caribbean doesn't mean, or I'm Black slash Caribbean, here's some inferences that this may or may not mean, for example. Am I making sense? I don't know, you
Yeah.
disappeared.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. But if we're again, like I'm having so many ideas
Yeah,
popping.
multi-ethnic is very different. Yeah.
Yes. So I
Yeah.
find it very complex when we're talking about the racialization or the internalized racialization when it comes to American context. But why I brought up like being indigenous and not being like trying to stray away from that monolithic discussion is that a lot of folks, when they claim that they're Indian, or when I hear African Americans saying like, I'm Indian and people, or indigenous, and people refute that, it's also erasing history which going upon colonization, there were Black folks here. When Christopher Columbus and Spaniards and all of that, there were more melanated and Black folks here upon that discovery. We all know we separated and came out of Africa, but what I feel like an important history that's erased for my African American brother and sisters is that we all were here. And that's my biggest discrepancy when folks are like, oh, well, you're listing this or you're listing you're a part of this tribe because you want to have this type of hair type or have this type of look or you want to separate myself or not myself, sorry, yourself. Again, look at the intent of the person. If the person is just like, I'm just telling you my family lineage, they might be telling you some rich history where like, yeah, they're also part of the indigenous tribes because we like to look at it monolithic. You have to be Native American or to be indigenous, you have to look a specific way. But there's a lot of erasure with our Afro brother and sisters who were here from day one or across continents from day one. As the brother before me said, like anti-blackness is global. Why? Because we make up the majority globally. So if we keep saying we're supposed to look one way or you're not mixed with all these ethnicities or this and that, and you have to look this certain type of way, how much of our history are we erasing?
Hmm. Okay.
Someone said we who.
Yeah, I would say there's a difference. You know, a lot of people don't have the distinction. Don't make the distinction of black with a lowercase b and black with an uppercase b.
Yeah.
Black with an uppercase b is uh, an association with Africa, and black with a lowercase b is the
Mhm.
phenotype. So if I say room full of black people, even if you know we're just talking about someone's phenotype, like we're talking about, I don't know, racial oppression, like you know what
Yeah.
I'm
So black with an uppercase B is global. That's where the
saying?
confusion is coming from. And then so what I'm asking is like if we're talking about black with like racialization here, capital B, because a lot of folks will have different views within American context or outside of American context, and why I'm doing that separation because again, outside of American context, we tend to go by like nationalism or ethnic
Yeah.
versus just like I'm African American, and also pay.
Even
Mhm.
there, even there, the same system prevails.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
so, it's like it's still the same. It's just in certain places they've convinced people with different distractions, but it's
yeah.
still the same. It's been going on for 6,500 years. If
Mhm.
y'all want to know more, the destruction of black civilization by Chancellor Williams, that book kind of like goes back to like the beginning of um, Afrophobia, pretty much like a fear of Africanness
Yeah.
that started out, you know.
And I can add
But
on to that. Within Christopher Columbus' diaries, he wrote about it, the separation of indigenous folks with black folks who were indigenous to Americas and the Caribbean, the Carib tribe, which they separated them by darker tone. So you can see a long lineage of darker tone and saying you're black, we're going to separate you all out to the West Indies, Jamaica, and going on and so forth. So that's why I said the importance of erasure of history. And they label the Carib tribes as being cannibals, and y'all are, you're more violent and you're more this and that. So there's the importance of, again, when Black folks are saying, like, nah, my family is connected to the Americas or connected to this area, it does not mean that they're um, somehow refuting that they're Black. But what history are we not hearing where it's like you've been here and through history and through colonization that you've been erased through colorism? Because the father of biology enforced colorism to separate groups that understood that they were multi-ethnic but
so
dark.
how did that group like withstand the institution of slavery? Like did they dodge it somehow?
No, so I mean, once we know what happened after Christopher Columbus, but like I said, our darker tone brothers and sisters who were here in the Americas at the time were then sent out to the West Indies and amongst the Caribbean.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, do you believe that the transatlantic slave trade happened?
Yes, of course.
Okay, cool. Then, yeah, there's usually a disconnect there when people start to claim indigenous ancestry too much because of another problem. Not to erase anything what you just said, I think that is a conversation we should have. But um, when our mothers, on these plantations were raped by
Hmm.
a owner, quote unquote owner, you know what I'm saying? And they were ashamed of it. They would also tell their children that their like recessive traits was because of an indigenous ancestor or something.
Mm.
That's how horrible it was on plantations. And there's a doctor that wrote a book on it that I was talking about earlier. But it's a disassociation with an African identity that we see a lot. And even if you're part of the Africans that came here before Columbus or the Africans that came here after Columbus, we still, you know, should be working together. And it is about the context of when you bring that up. If we just ask you your race and you start giving us a long list of indigenous people and then put, yeah, but I got a black mom, like, we're going to be like, really? But,
Mm.
you know, if you're black, just stand on it.
Yeah, no, I'm black and I stand on that. Like I said, it was a lot of complex
Hmm.
topics being raised. So I was trying to touch on the whole ethnic part or claiming other things, and I see what I see with folks.
Damn, Gunner. Yo, Gunner, what up, man? That's wild. Gunner ain't like nothing she was saying. Yo. Gunner sent 5 Panther paws, y'all.
What's going on, brother?
Peace, family.
I know I've been distant. It's been life's been hectic since we last had our conversation. But this
Yeah.
is actually the first time I'm on the app, and I came in and I just could not do the word garbage, the disassociation with blackness.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not trying to jump in, but it was just like exactly what you said at the end. It's like every time we get on this topic, it's like, well, what's your race? Oh, well, I'm not that kind of black. I'm this other kind of black. And we can just feel the ick in the room. It's like, you're black. Like, no one, whether you're indigenous black or came over here yesterday black or came here from the moon black, you're black. But when you try to tell us, well, I know you're black, but let me tell you, I have this ancestry and I came from here. It's like the disassociation. What is the angst about just saying you're black?
Yeah.
So,
Thanks. Well, appreciate you for the Panther paws, man.
I keep them on, keep them in the clip. I keep the clip ready.
Good to hear from you, man.
Likewise, brother. I'm gonna go on mute and
Yes, sir. Please, yeah,
the
please. I
biracial
need a
topics.
co-host up here today.
I'm sorry, say it again.
I don't got no co-host up here today. So,
Oh,
yeah, if you want to hang out, you can.
okay. Yeah, I'll hang out with you.
All right. Kizzy, what's going on?
Hey, thank you for letting me up. And if you'll indulge me momentarily, I'm going to kind of address the biracial thing, right? Um, the reality is race, obviously, we should all know that race was created by white men, right? So ultimately, in America, there are 5 racial classes: Indigenous, Alaskan Native, Asian, Black, Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, and white, right? So I would argue that when to be Black is to have the phenotypical characteristics of somebody Black, right? And it's not based on what we feel. It's based on, let's say you put 100 Black people in a room of all different shades, colors, throw albinos in there. I mean, that's the term that's in the the medical book. So,
Mm.
and a white man comes in, you are what that white man perceives you as,
Mm-hmm.
simply because they still, to this day, control the majority of the globe. There is no place on the earth that has not been negatively impacted by colonization.
Mm-hmm.
So I said all that to jump into the biracial part, right? So we just talked about the different racial classes, right? So to be biracial is to have two different races, is it not? So then that means that I could be Alaskan Native and Asian. If I was in the room, would I be perceived as black? No, probably not. Probably not. But that is still biracial. So when you have these biracial people who are black and Asian, or black and white, or black and Native Hawaiian, and they try to, oh well, I'm not black, but you never hear them say I'm not white. You never hear them say I'm not white. Why? Because it is just like we said it before. They are trying to other themselves from blackness. It is a level of anti-blackness. But more importantly, to like the girl was saying, well, it's a part of who I am. Yeah, phenotypically, she's black, but when I put down that I'm black and white, okay, well, you're not though, because if phenotypically to a white man you present as white,
Mm-hmm.
the reality of it is you're white. If you present as black, you're black because they perceive you as that, right? So to try to say as a black person, well, I'm not black, I'm biracial. Well, but are you the same race as this Asian and Pacific Islander? Cuz y'all don't look nothing alike. And race is literally based on phenotype. So how can you say that biracial is a race? Because if that's the case, then like everybody on the earth is biracial in some way or shape or form.
Exactly.
So
That,
I don't
that
know. That's just me rambling. Y'all got it.
that's real. Even when it comes to phenotype, like we, everybody has melanin. We just got more than everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the melanated people. Um, and so if you have a heavily melanated black parent, like, and you're still claiming like, it's kind of like if I were to put some ice cream in a bowl, and when I served it to you, I said this, even though it's just one bowl of ice cream, with a lot of ice cream in it, it's like me saying there's a little bit and a lot of ice cream in here. Like it's half and half. It's half a little bit of ice cream and half a lot of ice cream. Like it don't make sense, like it's just a lot of ice cream. You're not gonna say, you know, you're not gonna make the distinction of something that includes less of what you're already heavily, related to, like melanin. But let's go to the next guest. Vince, give us your age, race, and pronouns.
Hi. So I'm being 32. I'm black, and my pronoun is just he. That's all.
Right, talk to us.
So first of all, I just want to come back to something that Daniel said that I feel like was wrong. Racism is a system, but the biggest racism that we've seen so far has been built, on anti-blackness. So when he says the struggle of African American is the same as the struggle of Palestinian, this is wrong because when you go in Palestine, they're Afro-Palestinian. They suffering from racism. There is also a neighborhood, like it's called the neighbor of the slave. You go in Arab country like Tunisia right now, they chasing every black people.
Yeah,
So
I
this,
know.
yeah, so that's
And
why.
Saudi Arabia and all those other countries that align themselves with Palestine.
That's why my issue is like everybody is speaking about Palestinian like this is the worst conflict ever, but Congo is going under a
Wait,
genocide.
wait.
Congo is going under, 6 million, between 6 million and 30 million. This is the most important of
2.5 million people, including half of which are children, are going to be unalived in the Sudan from hunger by the
yeah.
end of this year.
But this is even in that thing. This is where you see the line and you see the racism because every time the Muslim, the Arab Muslim, why you don't speak about what happening in Congo and everything? Why don't you put the same energy about calling out those stars? They say, oh, because we're Muslim, so we feel entitled to them. But they gonna say to a black person who doesn't support Palestine that they are evil, why they not Muslim, and that's the issue that I have. There is a certain hypocrisy in the Muslim world because when about the Arabs about this situation, and this is where you see that when you black, they see it's normal for you to suffering. It's normal to see black people being enslaved, but it's not normal to see Arab people suffering like this. That's why I say even when we talk about different causes, the black causes is behind, and that's the truth about it. So when you speak to me biracial, I'm gonna say this. For example, I'm gonna take my mom and my dad. I'm Congolese also. I'm not just African American, but I'm also Congolese, like fully Congolese. My parents born in Congo, but my granddad was a mulatto. He was a Portuguese. On my mom's side, Belgian blood and Chinese. You can't see my mom. She has like eyes like Asian. Me too, my little sister. But for me, I'm just black. I'm not coming saying to everybody, no, I'm Congolese and that mixed with that and that. No, I ain't saying that. I'm just saying I'm Congolese. I'm just a black person because when the cop gonna see me and he gonna pull up me on the car, outside the car, he don't see an Asian dude. He don't see a Belgian dude, Portuguese dude. He see a fully black. Even though you can see my family, you can see like I'm like Tyson Beckford. You can definitely see that there is something other than black. But when you see me, you just see a black dude. When you put me among a Caribbean, you just see black people. You don't see Caribbean. You don't see this. Even when we speak about like the indigenous, we gotta be before Christopher Columbus, there was black people already traveling, in America and everything, and they settled there. We also keep to forget that back in the day, every continent were glued together. So this is something though. So from Africa, everybody settled in different places. Even in Asia, you go in Cambodia, in Vietnam. The first Japanese, they were black, and they got wiped out, and mixed by the white man. That's everybody knows that. But when you go in China, China has like they discovered that they had African DNA inside. The first Chinese were African. So you who are black, you look like the first man. You have the fully DNA inside you. You won't accept that. That's why we suffer from you know cognitive problem. This is true because you look like the strongest people, but the reality is like no one want to be you know in no one want to be on the side of the losers because black people are seen as losers. It just could be black for rap music, for the culture, but when it's time to really be black, nobody is black. And
Mm.
that's the reality. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, Fat Joe, I thought Fat Joe was black because the phenotype of Fat Joe is like, yeah, I see he's black. No, because he was saying the N word and everything. I discovered that Fat Joe is Latino.
Mhm.
So, and when you look carefully, Fat Joe back in the day when he was a young guy, he didn't look like a black guy. This is a fully white man. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
so we feel ambivalent about embracing, the black culture. We feel ambivalent about embracing the Africanness. You know what I'm saying? Even when you go to India, they black, but they don't have the phenotype of Negroes. They don't have this phenotype. So when you see me, you, and you put somebody that's an Indian person, the cop just gonna choose me and you, not an Indian person. He won't. And that's the truth. About the biracial stuff, I remember back in the day, Bauer, when the first protest started with Trayvon Martin, CB, and everybody they were protesting.
Mhm.
Bauer said, and I remember it was on Instagram, say he couldn't relate. He said he couldn't fully relate
Who
to the
said that?
president. Bow.
Bow Wow?
Yeah, Bow. Back in the day, Bow
Oh
said
man.
on Instagram. Back in the day,
Oh
he
yeah.
said he
We don't
said
take Bow Wow seriously out here, man.
he said he
Yeah, but
couldn't.
he was
He
one of those
said
new blacks, right?
no,
The new
bro. He
blacks.
said that was. This is where I said no. This guy is weirdo. He said he couldn't relate fully to the protest of black people because himself was his dad was Cherokee. Bro, that's what he said, bro.
What? Oh, Cherokee?
Yeah, he says that was Cherokee, bro. I remember this back in the day, bro. This is that was Cherokee, and you see, bro,
I
and you
mean,
see,
I think that's because Bow Wow is a product of that era that Brother Legend was talking about, right? From that mid '80s to '90s, when black people were always like, "I'm black but Cherokee, I'm black but this." There was
Yeah.
this disassociation that kind of happened in that period
yeah,
after our black movement of the '60s and '70s. In the '80s and the Black Power, Black Fist, and all that, there became this thing in the mid late '80s and the '90s where blacks were like, I'm black, but I got good hair because my great grandmother was Cherokee. No, you
But
have
that was
good hair because your
the
great great
first time
grandmother
that we
got
could.
raped.
this is the cognitive. Like even when we look, I'm from the nation of Islam. Like my dad was a Muslim and everything. But when you read like message to the black man, oh yeah, it's cool the knowledge of self. But what the hell, Elijah Muhammad gonna tell me I came from the Asiatic man?
Mm.
You see, you see. So we don't want to be in the side of the loser. The black nationalism is within ourselves. We're gonna say in the nation of Islam, they say we're from the the tribe of Shabazz, like the hidden tribe of Shabazz, bro. Like what? You see how the thing is going on. So we don't want to be on the side of the loser. Like the only time everybody wanted really to be black is when Obama became president. That's the issue. Okay, yeah, this is when Obama became president. Everybody started crying and everything. Oh yeah, I'm proud to be black. My president black and everything with Jay Z and everything, you know. But even back in the day, being black and being African, it wasn't cool until Black Panther. It wasn't cool. I remember Jay Z. He had
Yeah.
some lyrics, some dirty lyrics back in the day about African bone cheeks, whatever. You know, I'm
I'm
saying,
gonna be
dude,
honest. I'm gonna be honest. Like African art and a lot more media has been circulating now. You know,
you see.
yeah, the continent definitely stepped their game up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see,
The
that's what
continent,
you see. You spoke. J. Cole is fully black because he embraced the blackness. You know, all the dudes coming every time saying, "Yo, no, I'm not black. I'm just biracial." Hey, that's cool for you, but they gonna make profit of the culture. And then when we ask the real question, no, I'm not black. Waka Flocka, he is black. You see, he got dreadlocks and everything. He came on the Breakfast Club saying, "Oh, I am black. I'm Cherokee. I'm fully Cherokee. I'm not black. I came from Africa. This is his word. You can go on YouTube and you're gonna see what I've been saying." So that's the issue. That's why when you say, "Is the biracial black experience different from the monoracial black?" Yeah, hell yeah, it's different because first of all, even us as fully black, we don't care. We try to find something to say, "No, I'm not black." We try to find some mixed up stuff or whatever. I'm not this, I'm not that, and this is wrong. So imagine somebody who is not monoracial is biracial because they play too much. They it something. Sometimes I feel like he undermined the experience. Plus, it's about phenotype. Jacob fully looks black. CB, he's a light skin, but he's fully black. My mom came from a tribe in Congo that we call the Luba. They really light skin and everything. Sometimes even more light skin than the light skin dude. So, but they black. They see themselves as Congolese, and that's the thing. But you have some biracial. They're like, no, I'm biracial. I'm going biracial. But hell, let me tell you, if you get a phenotype, you look like a Negro. I'm gonna show you that when the cop will see you, they're gonna pull up on you real quick. And that's the thing that I've issued. Also, the white passing. I remember last time I told you, when I look at Ebro, I'm like Ebro because I came from America, also France. Ebro working with me in France, the cops gonna pull up on me, not him, because the phenotype is not really black. Even though he's telling you it's black. You know what I'm saying? And that's the bro. That's the truth,
no,
bro.
I'm gonna be honest. You talking about Ebro, right?
Yeah,
The host, right?
yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I was watching Hot 97, man. Between Ebro, what's the DJ's name? The
DJ Envy.
nah. That's Breakfast Club. I'm talking about Hot 97. Ebro And then the Ishman, you know, with the small hat, he's a DJ. Rosenberg, yeah. Between the three of them, and then they got the Latina woman on there.
Yeah.
It's like, are we talking about black culture? Like, what's happening right now? This is supposed to be the hip hop radio station,
Yeah.
of the East Coast. Like, this is where Jay-Z and Biggie started their career. This is where, like, what's happening? Like,
Bro, that's what I'm
No.
like. Yeah.
I
But
do want to challenge. I will challenge Vince though on the topic of the biracial black experience being different from the monoracial black experience. And I think because when I read that question, I don't think in terms of us as individual people, right? I think about the totality of the biracial black experience. And as someone who is black, who hates to be asked what's your race, I'm like, it's black. And then I know what people are getting to. And I'm like, why don't you ask me what my mother and father are? Because then they'll look at me like I'm crazy. But the point that I'm getting to, right, is that the biracial black experience still experiences the same types of oppression, right? The anecdotal experience of the individual may be different, but the same inability to access resources freely unless you can maneuver in certain ways, unless you can cosplay whiteness to a certain degree, unless you can play by their rules. It's the same type of oppression. It just shows up differently, right? And that shows up even in monoracial black women, because a beautiful monoracial black woman, or what we consider to be beautiful by certain standards, may be received differently than, let's say, an quote unquote unattractive black woman. Does that mean that they're experiencing two different types of blackness? No, because the system of oppression divides them that way. So they're both experiencing the same system. They're just experiencing two different sides of the same coin. Right. So I think that that's something that's a disservice that we do, because that leads us down this path of, white people never accepted me as white and black people never accepted me as black. No, black people knew you were black. They just didn't like your attitude, or they knew that you didn't fully accept yourself as black, and they felt that energy when you walked in the room. Right. But the experience of being black is to be other, is to not be white. And I think that's a shared collective experience. It doesn't matter what kind of quote unquote black you are, right? You're just not white. So your experience is going to be of a person living on planet Earth under white global neo-colonial white supremacy of a non-white person.
I agree. And that's why I do not mix, like, even those terms like people of color, melanated. I don't use it no more, because personally, I feel like I'm black. I'm not a people of color because we don't have the same experiences. You know what I'm saying? And this is something we should start using, because my experience is not the same as an Arab, it's not the same as a Latino, it's not the same as Chinese. Me, when I was born, my life was already defined by the system that crushed my ancestors, my people from the birth, from my centuries. So it's different. We cannot come with a Jew, for example, knowing that there is black Jew, black Jewish. We cannot come with the Chinese knowing that there is black Chinese, black Asian, or whatever, because even in those countries, they have the same oppression about darker skin tone. Now, darker skin tone doesn't mean necessarily that you're black, and from African ancestry. That's why I kept saying we have not the same fight. Whether everybody wanna, this not Pookie and Red, where we have not the same fight, and I want every black people to understand we have not the same fight. We just, us, the diaspora, we have a common fight against the oppressor. And sometimes the same people of color can be your oppressor, because I just want to remind that back in the day, because everybody claiming I'm indigenous. Indigenous people used to own slaves back in the day too.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. Go back to the history. Indigenous people, they used to own slaves, black slaves. So that's why I can say, even claiming that, I would never, I would never, because I would be ashamed of this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree on the people of color thing, right? So that makes me think of the fact that when we as black people have our movements, we're very intentional with how we frame things, right? Because we understand the oppression. So when we had a black power movement, even down to something like the LGBT movement, which was started by black trans people, right? We're very specific about what we named that movement. And what always happens, or at least appears to always happen, is our movements get co-opted by people who want to include themselves, right? Because typically our movements are about receiving resources. race as a system is just about denying certain people resources, how you divvy out those resources. And so when we create our movements, we're trying to get access to those resources. So then they'll say, okay, we have this thing, we're framing it for Black people, we're framing for this intersectionality of Black people. How can we widen this scope so that we can allow people who already get resources to now partake in some of that resource grab, right? So now you have gender non-binary, you have people of color, right? Which we know, quote unquote, under this people of color guys, for instance, Chinese people fall in that, Indian people from India fall in that. Yet they come into our neighborhoods and already receive resources to open up their franchises and their stores and things of that nature. Not denying, not saying that they shouldn't have access to resources, but by opening up to people of color, we now take that limited pool that we as Black people fought to get and now have to expand those resources and share it with people who already had access to resources. So I totally
Right.
agree with you. People of color
Can
is,
I,
is
you
a
know, there's
blind
What's up,
people,
spot.
brother?
there's
Can I
people of
chime in
color.
now? Is
Y'all,
that
we
cool?
got somebody else up here too.
Yeah, I just wanted to add just lastly, those people of color that we talk about, they voted for Trump, all those people like you see Latino and Asian, they was the first to vote for Trump and all the type of Republican back in the days. That's what you got to remind. The same Latino you see Asian, they used to vote for Ronald Reagan back in the days. So that's the truth, bro. That's why I keep saying we are not together, when we speak about the real stuff, because everybody want the black vote, until this is a truth, until we're gonna address the elephant in the room and speak about the truth.
Right.
Well, let's welcome our next guest, G. Freeman. If you can give
That's J. It's J.E.
it's
basically.
J. Okay, J.
Yeah.
Freeman. If you give your age, rate,
What's up?
and pronouns.
41, black, and he.
Right.
So I
Talk to
just
me.
wanted, I just wanted to like that whole thing about the immigration. So America has the policy set up that you basically have to bring a certain amount of money into the country if you want to legally immigrate here. So a lot of those Asian, like Indian, Asia countries, those people, they're already bringing a bunch of money. That's why they get those privileges. But it's set up that way to siphon off like the elites from other countries. It's just kind of like what America's immigration policy has been focused on since um, that like importation of white people after emancipation. But there was one other thing I can't exactly remember now, but with the whole biracial experience, or like should biracial be a separate identity or like a separate race? I feel like this is getting a lot more attention nowadays because there's been this like acceptance of Latino being its own race. Do you guys see that?
From a
Mm,
United States standpoint, I don't think so. Like
no.
there's indigenous Latinos, there's black Latinos, there's white Latinos.
No, I understand, but have you witnessed Latinos saying that they believe Latino should be its own race?
I mean, I haven't witnessed that. I've witnessed them not understanding the construct of race, and again,
Right.
because of the way that we're taught to frame race as let me try to be anything other than black, they've been
Right.
conditioned to try to position themselves as not being black.
Yeah, like after the whole like I don't know biracial safe space lives that were on last year, I got in I don't know
Yeah.
just scrolling on here that it was Latinos pushing to be like make Latino a race, make Hispanic a race, like community. So I don't know if it's just me seeing it or
It's
if anybody else is,
No, I mean,
but
I'm sure other people seen. I just personally hadn't
yeah,
seen.
yeah. But so I think that's part of where like this is like a new resurgence of this conversation. Um,
I wouldn't take that as uh, cause to believe that that's even a majority opinion just because it's on TikTok. Because if you go on TikTok, most black people aren't even from Africa anymore. I think we're from Mars or something.
Right.
So
right.
Bro, we're
Right.
from
But I'd be
everywhere
asking
outside of
people on the
Africa.
streets, like I ask, well, I'm in Colorado, so it's mostly Mexicans, but I ask on the streets, like, what race do you guys think you are? And they say Hispanic or Latino or Mexican or whatever nation they're from. But it's very rarely ever indigenous or Afro-indigenous, like face to face on the streets.
why
A
do you
lot
think
of
that
people
is?
identify that it's the whole propaganda they went through is what the Spanish and the mestizo, mustache, um, like their national policy after the separation from Spain, at least in Mexico, was one nation, one race. So they just wanted people to kind of forget about race and just like, you know, egalitarian utopia or whatever. But it didn't evolve. Like after 100 years, it just turned into like another form of supremacy. So it went from being like European supremacy to being mestizo supremacy. Um,
Which
I don't
still
know.
involves featurism and colorism to a heavy degree.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Right.
So
So it all boils back down to being
I
uh,
think if they what I was getting at is if they get their way, there will be like a bigger push in the black community again to separate us out to make us like a other. Um, I don't think it's good. I feel like the Latinos that are black, if they're here, they should start identifying that way on the census instead of just identifying with their colonial nation or whatever.
well, that's the thing too, right? Again, it's about we have to kind of always remember with these conversations the core of our race was kind of culminated at the thing. Again, it's about resources. So as white people and white people in the United States see that their numbers are dwindling and this Latino base or this non-white base is growing, also non-black base from their perspective is growing, they have to find a way to edge those numbers into their own, right? So then they come up with your white Latino. They want them to say
Right, right.
census from they don't want to see the exact evolution of it, just us growing in numbers, which kind of leads back into the conversation of why biracial as a separate identity hurts black people. Because again, we're talking about generational wealth and we're talking about, building black first and building black community out. When we water down ourselves from our genetics down to our resources, which is our monetary resources, right? And start to share and divvy those out, we only do a disservice to black community, right? So when you have, and hey, I mean, I can't judge, I'm going to judge, but hey, people love who they love, whatever the case may be. But when you have, these wealthy, well-to-do black folks, black men, black women who, through whichever means, be it sports, be it CEO, business, whatever the case, once they get a certain level of wealth and they marry their white counterpart, all I can do is ask myself, as in 4 generations, where does that wealth reside? And for me, I just don't see it residing in our community after 4 generations.
Mm, that's facts.
Yeah, that's what I'm
It
going through right
really do a
now.
disservice,
Cause
right? Like, and brother Leslie was just on a few months ago when I had this conversation. I had a real conversation with my mother and father about his inability to be pro-black, right? It doesn't mean he doesn't love black people, but you intentionally mated with a white woman who you maybe unintentionally gave me inferior genetics.
so, bro, can I ask you a question then? As like a,
Sure.
we both have the same parentage. Um, do you ever talk to your mom about like racism?
Oh, absolutely, all the time. It's been some
And
really hard conversations.
She's
Uh,
receptive to it.
yes and no.
Yeah.
We've gotten a lot better over the last decade and a half,
Mhm.
and there's still pain points for her. I think she's one of those what I consider like that new age, non-racist white that came out of like the loving generation of, "Ooh, I don't see color," and so
Right,
that's the
right.
way that she kind of like lives and operates. But I had to explain to her through a lot of work how that's erasure. Right? No one walks up to a yellow dandelion and say, "I don't see your color because I don't want to offend the red rose." Right? There's clearly a difference. We do see color, and it's okay that we've always seen color, but it's okay to see that my color is beautiful. To say that it is beautiful, right? So there are really hard conversations to be had, especially now with everything that's going on politically across the globe. I've had to have a real conversation with her about the potential of a race war, and baby girl, you better choose fast because I already know what side I'm choosing. So, I've had to have a real conversation with her about the fact that, she has a black husband and black children, but at any time she wants to, she can get up, move to North Dakota, and just be a white woman and live her blonde hair throughout life, right?
Right,
Her sons, her daughter, and her husband can't do that. So you will
right.
never fully understand the limitations of what it means to be black, even though you have chosen to have a black husband and black children. You still always have an escape plan, an escape door that we will never get to have. So you just never, it will never settle completely. And those are hard conversations to have. But again, for my own liberation as a black person, I needed to have those conversations. I needed my mother to know where I stood in my blackness. I'm not white. I'm not biracial. I am a person of biracial origin, meaning my two parents are of two different races, but I am categorically 100% fully, since that's the term we like to use, fully black. I'm fully black. I'm black in my
That was
politics. I'm black in
well
my
said.
identity. I'm black in my phenotype. I'm black in my resource redistribution. I'm black in my platforms. I'm black.
I heard that. Me too.
Yeah, it's like an art form trying to get this conversation had sometimes. It's like
And it's hard, right? Because and this is the conversation I had to have with my father. And this conversation, I think maybe a few months ago we had this conversation, Brother Legend, on your live about you know having that real conversation of something that y'all have to live with. This, my father has to live with never being able to be pro-black, and my mother has to live with she's been a racist, right? And you're a white woman and you're a racist. And you love black children. You love your black children. Y'all have to live with that. Y'all have to live with the fact that you created three children that have identity crisis. The mulatto identity crisis is and I hate to say that word because to me that means mongrel and mutt, but the quote unquote biracial identity crisis is something that y'all created when y'all decided to lay down and sleep with each other without thinking about the consequences that I would have to live with for the rest of my life, right?
Right.
Because y'all love
right,
each other, which is fine, but you didn't love your unborn children enough to think about what that was going to do to them on this
right.
planet,
So
right?
the
So
questions I started getting into with my mom was like all the definitions like mulatto and quadroon. And so I started getting to the stance where I don't think like it should be a prerequisite to interracial relationships to understand like all these definitions, have at least read like five black author books like contextual from back in the day, something at least current, you know,
that's a nice way to put it.
at the
I
bare
think
minimum,
that's
you
a
know.
nice way to put it. I think there should be a prerequisite that until we eliminate racism on the planet, mixing. Like
Right. I
Right,
heard that.
because if we don't get rid of the systems that oppress, there's no amount, like I said, there's no amount of learning. My mother could learn and learn and learn and learn, but she will still exist in this world as a white woman. She will still have an option to be able to walk away if she chooses to. Right. So until we eliminate that system, until humanity does the work to undo racism and undoes this attack that it's had on the African diaspora and its descendants across the globe for the last 10 millennia, right? We can't afford as black bodies to intermingle our racism, right? Until we can stop the slaughter of South Sudan and Congo, and until we can get them to understand that King Leopold was worse than Hitler, until we can get them to understand that neocolonialism anywhere and Hawaii not being free and thinking of Australia as a white nation, until we can undo all of that, we don't have the fortitude, the time, or the effort to be working with the children of that love, because that's my main concern, right? Is if I do the work and I read all the books, if I'm a white man, I read all the books and I do all of that work, right? And I'm good. I love this. I'm a white man. I love this black woman. I've done all the work. I understand all the language. I got that. I'm gonna make sure my child knows that their 4C hair is beautiful and their wide noses are beautiful and all of that. That still does not eliminate the identity crisis that child is going to have by not being able to fully identify as black because they don't want to negate their white father or their white mother.
Uh-huh.
So you are doing a disservice to your
that's
culture.
one of the that's one of the most dangerous narratives because if that parent understood what blackness means in this country, they should not feel that way at all. There should be no even question of erasure. You can be black and have a white parent here. That's just the way it works. So that's the conversation I keep going over with my mom. Um, I mean, I'm like 41, right? So it's been a while, and she's finally starting to like accept that fact.
Yeah.
But it just speaks to that fragility though, because I hear it still today with younger generations on this app, and when the white parent is talking about like it takes me away from my children, and like the kids are obviously mixed, so like you don't have to ask. Like, I mean,
But see, that's a
you don't.
serious point to point out. And I had to point that out to my mother, right? When you
Yeah.
say when that white parent says it takes me away from my children, here is again once the problem. You're centering yourself and you're not centering your offspring, who you obviously didn't think about before you laid down and created them. Right? You're still thinking about how it makes you as a white person feel. And this is the problem with white supremacy, is that it centers white fragility first. Oh my God, it makes me feel a way that I had black children and they can't claim me. It makes me feel a way that you call me racist and I have a black husband. You are a white person under global white supremacy. You will always be a racist. Now, the way your racism is acted out, how active you are in participating in that, can maybe be somewhat negated by your intentional anti-blackness. If you do the work, I mean, not your anti-blackness. I'm sorry, to do your anti-racist work. If you do that work, you can work on that. But until racism disappears, until white people are stop receiving privileges simply for being white, you will always categorically be inherently racist. And once you accept that fact, maybe we can get to the next level, right? For white people that say that they love black people and can't accept that fact first, we're still at ground one for you. No matter how nice you think you are to black people, if you can't accept that you're a racist as a white person under white supremacy, we are still at ground one, and we will never be able to leave that station.
That's a fact.
We have a D Diva.
Yeah, that's D. What up, D?
Hey, did you check your email?
Nah.
Okay, so I sent you the logo, and I
Oh,
just
yeah.
sent you the NDA.
Okay, cool. Appreciate that.
But I will say to Freeman, man, it's I'm around your age, my 40s, early 40s. It's a tough conversation because again, the humanity level of it, we love our parents, and at the human level, we should be able to love people independent of this social construct that we created called racism, right? We should be able to love
Right.
people independently of classism, patriarchy, xenophobia, in absence of all these systems. But unfortunately, the reality is these systems exist, and so until we can undo that, we have to we have to talk about it in real terms. And we can't. It has to be facts over feelings. The
Hmm.
fact is, my mother loves me. I love my mother. The fact is, my mother is white. The fact is, white people attack people who look like me. The fact is, we may have a race war. The fact is, white mother, you have to choose really quickly because I know what side I'm choosing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do remember what I was trying to say earlier, though. When you're talking about the '80s, like identity crisis, uh, I think it all came out because we were like that first generation of like legal mixed kids. So like before loving, you couldn't like come out and say you have two different race parents.
Yes.
But from like the '70s into the '80s, we were that first generation that was like, oh, we're mixed. So that like I don't know, motivated everybody else to get on the bandwagon because, like, my family is super light, like on my grandfather's side, my dad's father's side. Um, but they were all considered black, just light in the 20s and 30s or whatever. So it wasn't even a question then. It just became a question after Loving v. Virginia. But I did find one case. It was in California. There's a black dude trying to marry a Mexican woman, and they said they couldn't get married because the Mexican woman was white. But she's, if you look at the picture, she's obviously mixed. So
Mm-hmm.
those are those nuances of like who in Latino culture or Hispanic culture is white, who's indigenous, who's black, who's mixed, and it kind of like varies from colony to colony. But
The
I
other
think
thing
that's
is
part of
also,
the problem that we're going through
I
now
think
is the globalization.
the other thing that's also interesting about like phenotype and the way that it shows up like functionally in groups is that the less you see something or see it's almost, I think about like seeing identical twins, right? Identical twins to the rest of the world are identical, but to parents who gave birth to them and see them every single day, they can instantaneously spot the differences, right? It's like being in a room and being in these spaces with white passing people. I look at a lot of movies from back in the day and a lot of people that were white passing, and I don't know about you guys, brother legend, but I see those people, I'm like, wait, they were white passing, that's clearly a black woman,
Yeah.
right? But to
Right.
white people who were trained to look for certain phenotypes and those don't show up, they're not trained enough in the variation of white blackness to recognize that. So yes, that Mexican woman to
Yeah,
them may look white because they don't see
right.
it. I think about it honestly, and it's going to sound probably xenophobic, but just we spitting facts over here. Like when I look at certain Asian people, to me, a lot of them, the males, females, all of them look the same because my eye is not well trained to spot the differences. That's why
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't be the poor person on who is and who isn't Asian of this type or that type or this type. That's why white people should have never been at the forefront of separating tribes out based on phenotype because they don't know
Right.
enough. They're not trained enough in this population, in this pool to say who is and who isn't.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. You had outsiders trying to decide who is and who isn't.
Right. Because the question I came upon a few months ago was like, with Asian culture specifically, would a person who is from Afghanistan, if they had a kid with a Korean person, is that kid mixed race or just Asian?
See,
Yeah.
Yeah, it don't make no sense.
uh,
Like, it's so
Right.
muddled
that's
up.
crazy.
You know, is that culturally mixed? Because
There
that,
is.
That's what I'm saying. But like, their phenotypes are so drastically different, but they're from the same continent. Because when I
yes.
was talking to some Eritrean, I think it was maybe Somalis too. They were trying to separate themselves from like Bantu descendants or Nilotics and everybody else. They want to be like
These
just
are
Somali, you know. Um, they want their race to be Somali. So like they say, like their DNA comes back, it's 99% Somali, but it's just because they were like separated from the rest of Africa for like the past 2,000 years. Uh, well, until like Arab colonization or whatever, but so 2,500 or 3,000 years. But I
I
mean,
think
how, like if we're gonna
nationally,
redefine race, like would there be more than one race on each continent at this point, or
I
because
mean,
the whole thing with European racism is they wanted to be all together one thing,
I
right?
think I prefer. Well, they had to want to be right because
Right,
tribally they didn't have enough numbers of power, right? Just
right,
globally, when they left Eastern Europe, they went out into the world and said, "Damn, there's no unmelanated people anywhere. Like we have to group together." And I think that's another thing why it's been one of the difficulties that we have across the diaspora of coming together as a race is because that's not even epigenetically how we've ever done it, right? We did it based on tribes and cultural norms and traditions and things like that. So now to say, oh, y'all all look alike, y'all should be friends, is
Mm.
still, I think, a foreign concept that we're having to work through because that's the only way we can overcome whiteness. But it's still not naturally who we are, right? Like the different tribes in Africa were the tribes. It wasn't Nigerian and Sudanese. It wasn't that. It was the tribes in those lands before the Berlin Conference, right? That's who they were.
right.
And so us
It's I
trying to
mean,
kind
yeah,
of
but
settle that road
there
is
was still that
national.
division between like East and West. Nilotics and Somalis, like Ethiopians, they actually started, not chattel slavery, but the enslavement of like Bantu people, like a long
Yeah, that
time
happened much
before
later.
contact.
It
Yeah, well,
happened later.
before contact with.
You're talking about Africa's history. Africa's history goes back way further than the Hyksos invasion, even
No,
like
no, no, yeah,
you
right,
know what I'm
right.
saying. So
No,
like
absolutely. But
yeah,
this is like pre-contact with Europeans. Yeah, so like when the Arabs showed up to like the Horn of Africa, it was the same thing like the Fulanis and the other like Berber Moors did. They were like, "Don't enslave us. Just go down the river over here and take these people." So it was just kind of like a passing,
Right. I mean, I think that
passing it on.
if we look at the large scope of human history, right, we can say that a lot of humans did some really shitty things, right? And that's why the enslavement conversation for me is always a tough one because I don't like when, if we're not having that table at the kitchen, if we're not having that conversation at the kitchen table, it allows white people to kind of use that and weaponize the types of enslavement that happened on the African continent and say that they're all one and the same. And they're
Right,
not, right? Because as you said,
right,
like let's say the Somalis enslaved somebody, the Berbers enslaved somebody. They didn't go across the globe and say, if you're not Berber, you're not right, and we can enslave you and enslave your children indefinitely and all of their
right.
offspring, right? So the
Correct.
system of slavery that was created by white people was much more diabolical.
Right. That's why I said shadow. I think I did say it. But
Yeah.
yes, it was. It wasn't even comparable. Like even Muslim slavery was more like apprenticeship or like a indentured servitude. Um, there was a way for people to get out of it, and it didn't make your descendants enslaved. So yeah, I mean I understand. I was just saying like as these pushes for like new racial classifications come up, like there are these other, like especially on the continent with Somali, that they want to be separate from. Not I'm not saying all of them, but like the extremists want to be separated from, you know,
right.
Bantu,
But
Nilotic,
again,
whatever.
you're talking about people that have a fundamental lack of understanding of how racism operates and what it was built to do. Um, to quote Dr. Neely Fuller Jr., it don't matter to them what the hell race they think they are. All that matters is what the creator of racism thinks that they are. It don't
I
matter.
actually just did a video about that with the Spanish
Yeah,
because
like no one's going.
there's a
No one's going to the black community to find out if they're white or not, or if they can be a new category like that.
right,
That comes from the people that created the categories in the first place.
right. But I did a video on that because like there's a sign, like those signs that used to say no Irish, no Negroes, no dogs. There's a sign that said we serve whites only, no Spanish, no Mexicans, because Spanish people and certain Hispanics seem to think like they can
Yeah,
pass
but
as white,
that was
or they.
for economic reasons. That wasn't for uh, the same reasons that black people were used as chattel slaves. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
Oh,
because
absolutely. But
you know what I'm saying.
it was a reminder of like Spanish weren't considered, like Iberians weren't considered white during like the founding of America. Anglos didn't consider them to be white people.
I
So then
mean,
why they not fighting with us?
What's that?
So then why they not fighting with us?
Because they were the ones that first started to enslave us. Like
No,
so this
no,
whole
but I'm saying
1619
if they
project,
wasn't considered white from the beginning, right? Why are they
right?
considered white now?
So the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo after the Mexican American War, they petitioned American government to be white on paper,
I,
but it
okay.
wasn't.
So they
Yeah,
petitioned to be white on paper.
yeah. So
Okay,
you can.
so they're
It's a
white
quick
because
read.
they chose to. Is that
yep.
what you're saying?
Because eventually the government allowed them to, but that was like the difference between de jure and de facto. So de jure, they were legally white, but the people like in the borderlands of Texas and New Mexico, Arizona didn't treat them like white people. That's why the Chicano movement came about,
What I'm
basically.
saying is, in order to allow something, there needs to be a request.
Yeah. So right, right.
So what I'm saying is,
The government of Mexico requested that of the American government.
right?
So the people get the laws handed down to them. It's not like it's not the same as like the Irish came here and separated themselves from Ireland to become American citizens. These were people that lived on like the border. Like Chihuahua in Mexico is like a pretty white state. It's like the old landowners, um, plantation owners or whatever, haciendas. So it's just a different. That's really it's the danger of like Mexico being one nation, one race. Because when we talk about like Mexicans, most Americans have this like phenotype in their mind, but you know, there's very pure white Mexicans still that never mix with anybody. They're still just black Mexicans, right? But the
Yeah.
majority is mixed. So that's what we think of when we think of these people. But like I guess legally or like in the government wise, they wanted to put themselves into a better, like you said, economic stance. That was the whole thing with like NAFTA. Um, Part of NAFTA is allowing
Uh,
Mexican nationals come here to
you
work.
gotta go to the next guest.
The
Yeah, but yeah, thanks for contributing. Kyla, give us your age, race, and pronouns.
Yes, so I am 23. I was born 2001 in April, and I'm my race. Oh, my mom is black and my dad's Chinese, so I can definitely come from a place of understanding with this topic. I would say it's the biracial experience is completely different from the black experience. And I think if you are, especially if you're like privileged, in the sense of maybe if your parents are white and you're like white passing or um like myself, like some people assume I'm Filipino, and I definitely am privileged in the sense that like the way my sister who's a little bit darker skinned or my mom gets treated versus how I get treated is completely unfair and completely different. And I think if I didn't acknowledge that, I would be creating a really big problem within the black community if I did not acknowledge that privilege that I have. I would say making a
Okay. What
biracial.
problem would be created?
What do you mean?
What problem would be created if you didn't announce your privilege?
I think that darker skinned black women, black men, black women especially, have to jump through a lot more hurdles, and me identifying with the same hurdles that they have is inappropriate.
Okay, so what hurdles do they have that you don't have?
Just even like my sister, we have the same credit score. She makes way better income than
So are
me.
you're associating black people with bad credit scores?
No, I wasn't finished. She has a better credit score than me and cannot get an apartment. She has had to live in some really choppy places while I get just an immediate acceptance from a lot of landlords. Just the other day we went to dinner and the valet and the waitress made her pay first before she
All
ate.
right, hold on. Okay, you don't have to go on too long of a list. You are talking to black people.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you probably don't know how that sounds when you go down that list. But what I'm trying to say is, as far as what you're talking about, could come with a form of social status, classism. Do you think Kanye doesn't have a black experience?
No, not at all. I think he does.
So Kanye could probably get an apartment a lot faster than you could.
That's a different type of privilege. If he was not a billionaire and famous, he probably wouldn't.
But okay. But I'm saying is the things that you qualify as being a separate experience from black experience is also included in a black experience. So what's
But that's a
separate?
very niche black experience. Because my
No,
mom, who is also darker skinned,
no, it's not. No, it's not. 'Cause I'm trying to get you from sounding like you're saying black people can't get apartments and like we're unable to um to jump through the hoops. I know you're saying the hoops are there, but also I'm trying to just get across to you that black people do jump those hoops. Like everyone black I
oh,
know has.
100%, but they shouldn't have to, is my point.
But well, I mean, that's cute, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what makes biracial a different experience than the black experience. You have to qualify that with something that does not exist in the black experience. And you can't, because to do so would be to put blackness in a monolith, which it doesn't exist in. So that's where it's like we have the most varied experience of all people because we exist on every continent. We have all the cultures came from us. Like, so, Europeans are the most exclusive culture to where their experience is like, you know, set to like a certain standard, like robots. We're not like that. So what makes the biracial experience a unique experience?
I would say it would have to depend, unfortunately, on the person and what other privileges they have, but also if they're light, fairer skinned or not. Unfortunately, there
You
is
have
so
no
much colorism.
privileges.
I'm
You
sorry?
don't, you don't have privileges. Are you white?
My dad's Chinese Jamaican and my mom is black from
I know,
Brooklyn,
but what are
Harlem.
you? Do you identify as white?
Hell no.
All right, so you don't have any privileges.
There are certain things that I don't have to go through that my darker skinned sister and mother do. So that is a privilege.
A
I would
concession.
disagree with that too, bro. Because like Hispanics have privilege over us, and some
What?
Asians have
All right.
privilege over us.
Hold
First of
on,
all,
because she's
Hispanic is
conflating things, and that's not a
Hispanic.
race.
No, I
No,
understand, but I'm saying Hispanics of any race have
what
privilege
I'm
over us.
saying
So
is,
even if it's a
you.
black
What I'm
dude from
saying is,
Dominican
But this
Republic,
privilege
they
dates
have
back so
privilege over
all
far.
right,
us
Even like the
all right,
house slaves,
just
Hello,
like the
because they
brown
speak
paper
Spanish.
bag
hello, y'all
all
can
test.
right,
talk
all
at the
right,
same
all
time.
right.
Calm
I'm
down.
not gonna lose control of this live. Y'all need to calm down. Like y'all are on my live, man. Like, please don't interrupt Je, please. Because if you stop me at the wrong time, it gives people a chance to misunderstand what I'm saying because I'm speaking with a lot of nuance here. So, like, words have meanings. When I speak, I'm speaking to those meanings. Please understand, I choose my words carefully. So, a lot of the stuff you're bringing up, like, I've already like addressed. What was I saying though? I'm gonna just skip all this other stuff and get to tell me one thing that It is a unique experience that biracial people go through. What is one thing about them that you feel others them? Creates a different class system or a different social class.
There are so many like little things that add up to one big thing that I don't think I could pick just one.
Pick one. You
I
said
would say
there's so many.
relationships, even the way I'm viewed, like my sister, people have had to ask her, or she's had to ask them, do you date black girls? And I've never had to do that. People just assume that I'm just not black.
But
So beauty standards, relationships, even friendships.
But you're what you're saying is black people cannot obtain these things.
That's not what I'm saying at all.
So then why are you bringing that up? I'm asking for what biracial people have that black people do not have. Like, am I speaking in Chinese? Can y'all
no.
understand me down there? Like,
Brother Legend, if I may, I want to point out so that because words have meaning, non-white people do not have privilege. We have concessions based on different things that make us closer to proximity to whiteness. And the reason it's a concession is because it can be taken away at any time. Whiteness cannot be taken away. They're white. They have privileges as white people. Even though you may be given concessions based on your appearance, you may not experience some of the colorism or the featureism that maybe your mother or sister experienced, but you can categorically still experience that the day that white people decide to make you experience that.
I'm just confused now because I don't feel accepted by the black community. It's really hurtful, actually, because all of my family are black, and I feel like when I have been like, okay, I'm biracial, that makes them happy. So does the black community not want me to say I'm biracial and just say I'm just black? What's gonna make people just not talk shit?
Okay, so
What?
So a thing about you not being accepted by black people. Again, this is an identity crisis
Always
that a
gonna
lot of people who go through when they have these type of non-monoracial parenting, or especially if they're non-monoracial and not raised by a black woman.
I was raised by a black woman. She's from Harlem in New
Lord
York.
have mercy. And you don't know better?
Wait, so you were
And you
raised by
don't
a
know
black
better?
woman, your culture was passed on to you, and you're still not understanding why this is confusing me. But
We
again,
gotta, we
I
got, we
don't
gotta
get
make it
it.
Markle up here.
but blackness is not a monolith, so maybe
I
this
never said that.
No, I'm not saying I'm not.
Hold
No, I'm
on.
saying blackness isn't a
Dang.
monolith. So maybe your individual anecdotal life as a black woman or biracially black Chinese woman of Jamaican parentage from Siswa, Jamaica, Mars may be different. But what I'm saying though is that number one, when black people don't accept black people, typically it's because of the air that you have when you walk into a room that you're not their kind of black, and black people have, because of our survival, we've had to learn to pick up on energy very quickly in those who are with us and those who are against us or not fully with us.
I just want to make sure that my darker skinned black brothers and sisters feel heard and feel respected. So I feel like when I identify as biracial, it's a way for me to not say that I'm going through the same struggle that they are, because I know I'm not.
But you
Okay.
don't have to identify as biracial because it's obvious. So like
Right.
if you just tell people you're black, then people are gonna be like, oh, and then I mean, they're gonna ask obviously. But like if I tell people I'm black, then it's obvious that I'm a mixed black person. But to them, we're just black people. To like in I mean to me I'm just a black person. That's how I was raised. But like
Pause.
I'm saying in their in their violence, you
Because
know.
she's conflating three different things.
Yeah,
She has literally sat
Gotcha.
here and conflated classism, racism, and colorism.
yeah.
And like that's what makes her confused. And brother, and no other person up here said you were not black. That's a you thing. So when you went out of your way to
Every
say
time that
that,
I've expressed that I am, that's what
no
I've
one
gotten
up here
back.
said you weren't black.
I
And
never
you,
said nobody up here,
I
but
mean,
the
yeah.
but
majority.
you referenced the community and then spoke of your mother and your family.
Well, that's my experience. The majority of every single black person that I meet, when I say that I'm black,
How do you
they
deal with
don't
it
have a
in that
positive
moment?
response.
How do you deal with it in that moment?
I usually try and be lighthearted about it, and I'm like, there's melanin in there. It's in there. Because people are like,
You should try a little hard. No,
I would
I'm
also,
just saying. just like, stand your ground or whatever. I mean, well, I hate to
And
use that term, but like,
I would also add, when you say my experience and most of the black people I've encountered, that's a proximity issue. That's not a totality of blackness issue, right? So your proximity of black people that you may be around may be suffering from other stuff that needs to be unpacked as well. So that's the limited world purview that you're experiencing, but that is not the totality of blackness. Because when I looked at your profile, I see a black woman. Now, in terms of wanting, the point that you made about wanting your brother and sister to feel heard when they're talking about their particular experiences of blackness, the best way for you to do that is to allow them that space. So, for instance, me as a lighter skinned black male, I will speak on colorism until someone darker comes to want the platform, and then by all means, I shut my light skinned ass up.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I don't make black people feel more comfortable just by saying, "Hey, I'm black too," like, because again, that's not for me to do for them. That's for me to do because I'm black. That's my identity. So you wanting to identify as black or not does nothing more or for or against your brothers or your mother.
Mm-hmm.
so I have a video of me going through this with a brother from Georgia a few years back. It's on my other page, um, like my main account. But the whole thing is like, sometimes we have to fight for it, and I don't know why it's becoming a bigger issue. Like, I'm 41 and you're 23, I think you said.
Yeah.
So it's a big difference, but the fact is, like, we're going to go through this because some people in our community aren't really educated about it, haven't had that much contact with people like us. So we're like unicorns sometimes. And so I believe they're bullshitting or, being disingenuous at the time, because I'm pretty sure every black person in America knows a biracial person, you know? So, like, I think they're just, being bullies. And it's cool. You just got to be able to take it and ride with the punches, rope a dope like Muhammad Ali, and just get back when you find a style, I guess.
Yeah,
That would be my
and I think
advice.
it's about decentering self, right?
Black
So number
don't
one,
understand
if you think,
themselves as exotic Negroes, because in this case and in their profile picture, she looks like a light skinned black woman. I don't know. It's like the need to be exotic or to be exempt, because if you show up black and you mentally are black and you're stating that you black, you don't have to go around telling people you black. Black people know black people, whether you black biracial or you monoracially black. I think it's sad that, like, y'all think y'all look like something other. You don't look like nothing
People
other
keep
than you.
telling us that it's the
But again,
propaganda.
it's
Like,
it's
people
not it's
center
not
us.
propaganda. But that's the thing. Are you believing that you black? Because everything that she said, she was making it like she has some level of exceptionalism in society because she was sitting next to a darker black woman.
Right.
And
But when
even
I
and
was like,
that's a colorism thing within community. But
when I was like,
when you're moving through society and you're still dealing with racism as a whether you're a fair skinned black person or a dark skinned black person, and then we go into classism when she brought up the credit score and the finances, like those all three different things that can intertwine, but in the reference that she was using them, they do not and are not the same, and they don't all align in the way that she's using them. It was almost like weaponizing them to elevate herself in society. I have privilege. I'm light skinned. I don't have hardship like my sister. Like that.
right,
That was
because that's part of the propaganda. Like, we're told
No,
that, and
not
it
at
might it may
all.
not it may not even be true, but like, we are told that by like outside sources our whole entire
I
life.
don't think I'm
Things are going
better.
to be easier for you. You're going to get things, like, things are just going to be handed to you because of the way
I
you
think I've
look.
just been broken down so many times. Like I've sobbed. Like there's been times where I've just sobbed because my black friends have been like, "Well, you're not black," or people in my life, or even like white friends that I've had have been like, "Aren't you so lucky that you're not like that dark?" Like people have said that to me. So that's the automatic mindset
Right.
that I have. I don't think I'm better at
People have said
all.
that to me too. People have said that to me too. I used to
Yeah.
play the electric guitar in high school, and people would say I was white, and that I was.
but Kyla, like
That's
as
so
Brother
bad.
Legend said, I'm sure a lot of black people, even some of the blackest of black, phenotypically, people have been told they're not black because they did something that was considered
Well,
outside.
I don't like that. I don't like when
But
people are like,
listen,
"Oh, you
hold on one
love that,
second.
huh?
But
That's your you like that. You like that." It's like, no,
here,
the fuck, I
But
don't.
but you
Like,
know, like growing up in DC, it's not like that because when you have like communities that are like 60% black, there's always like black kids that play Dungeons and Dragons or whatever. You know, there's always black kids that are in band. There's always, you know, the black nerds. There's always all those like cliques that are in normal high schools or just in black high schools. It's just different looking people.
right,
I
and
live in
they're
Los Angeles, so it's very about how you look.
and their blackness and people's blackness as black people have been called into question for a myriad of reasons, right? Which kind of the point that Brother Legend is making with this post that there is no separate experience, right? That all black people have experienced that, so it's not like you're experiencing something separate because you're lighter skinned being told that. When Brother Legend was told that because he played the electric guitar, and I was told that because I quote unquote speak white, and someone else was told that because they like anime, right? That is the black experience. But what you have to do as a black woman is do the work of blackness, and when that happens to you, you don't have to codify your blackness by a long list of why you are black. What you do is you understand the people and where they're coming from. So, for instance, when I have people that say that, I understand that because of their lived experience, they may be talking about from their truth, that they're seeing my privilege. That's not a me situation. That's not on me. That's on them. And because I understand the plight of black people, it does not bother me when someone who maybe has to deal with featureism or colorism tells me, well, you're not black because you don't have to deal with that. I recognize that they're coming from a place of hurt and they're not really saying I'm not black because they know that I'm black. What they are saying under that is you don't experience these things. But that's because I've done the work to unpack and understand blackness. And so my concern for black community is more important than centering myself and trying to prove why I am black and why they shouldn't say those things about me.
Mhm.
Right. And then like
Absolutely.
on my side, sometimes they act like the white guys act like they don't know I'm black. Sometimes the Mexican dudes do it too, and they'll start talking, you know, bad about black people, like
Yeah,
off
I
the
never heard the
right
saying.
away,
Why
right
does
away.
why does a person that you call your friend talk trash about me? Why do they feel comfortable saying it to you? Like you have to
Oh,
think of how you are
because they're
speaking.
trying to test us. They want to
Okay,
see like
but
where
you
we
have to think
stand.
about how you're speaking and how you present yourself. That will make them think that they can say
No,
something about black
I
people.
mean,
Too.
I mean, like I met this dude in a parking lot when I was fishing, and right away he started telling me a story about this guy who at work who thought he was better than everybody, and he asked the guy like, "Oh, do you even know how to read?" And so this was like his first story, like outside of just being
Check
like,
him
"Oh,
right
hey,
then
you
and
know,
there.
like whatever, whatever." And this is a Mexican guy.
Right, but again, this is what D is saying. Like, did you check him? Right, something about
I did, yeah. No, no, I gave him a copy. I gave him a copy of Pudd'nhead Wilson because I've been on the road for a little while, and I have a bunch of books with me. So in Pudd'nhead Wilson, it talks about an enslaved woman named Roxy. It's written by Mark Twain, and so this woman is 1/16 African, and she's still enslaved, right? So she looks basically white, but her hair she keeps wrapped up because that's like her identifiable feature. And so she has a kid with a white guy in town. And then she switches her baby with the master's baby so her kid doesn't get sold downriver, right? So I gave this book to this guy after I checked him just to make sure, like, he'll read it because it's an old book and he's interested. And it's Mark Twain. And so when he realizes that he is too, like a hexadecaroon, like Roxy, even though he's Mexican, he'll realize his status. But I'm kind of sad because I gave the book away because I was, you know, I don't know, in that kind of
welcome
mood.
our
But
new guest.
Oh yes, we have new guests. Let me go to the next guest. Sylvia, give us your age, race, and pronouns.
Hi, how's everyone doing? I've been enjoying the discussion from the panel down here, and I just wanted to bring. I didn't know if any of you knew. This colorism thing has really gotten out of control to the point on in the workplace. We as Black people, melanated or whatever the adjective you'd like to describe, can now sue each other for racism
Mm.
if your skin is lighter than mine. And you do things to me that are similar to maybe how YT people would treat me if I can prove some disparagements that you've done, and I can go to EEOC, And if any of you don't believe me, look it up, and I can file a lawsuit and they will take on my case if you are of a lighter hue than I am in skin color.
That is
Well, it
The
goes
diabolical.
both
the
Brother
it goes
Lovely,
both ways.
the other thing I wanted to bring up was that the last census that was done, the largest race of people in the United States, and of course everyone does not participate in the census, okay? So this would be for the people that filled out their census. The largest race of people right now in the United States of America are mixed race people, regardless whether it's white and black, Mexican and black, white and Mexican. The largest race of people in the United States of America are mixed race. So white people
That's
are not in the majority, neither are
that's not
black
true.
people.
I never heard that
That's
segment.
not
Well,
true.
go.
That's not true. That's not true.
It's on the
That's not
census
true.
website, and like I said, it is for the people who filled out the census. Most people don't fill out a census, but the last census that was done, if you go to the website,
Man,
that's what it lets you know, and that's
this
for
is
the
my
people that took the time to fill out the paper or the email and return the census in,
Yeah,
and
she's right.
and so
she's
it's
not.
look, are you listening when I'm saying those are the people that participated in the census?
Yeah,
So
I
if there are people
understand.
out there that didn't participate, then we don't know about them. We can only go by what the people that participated. So
But
based
there's
on the
also
last census in the United States of America, mixed race people are the largest race of people that we have. And the last thing I was going to say was this thing about biracial came about, and I'm 61, maybe things have changed now. But if you look at older biracial kids and you look at their birth certificate, it never says biracial. It chose a race for those children. It chose
it
black.
doesn't it doesn't
Excuse me,
say
sir.
anything. You're
Excuse me,
lying
sir.
to
Sir.
everybody. It doesn't say
Oh my
anything.
God,
My
have
birth
mercy.
certificate does not have a
Stop
What
race
year
talking
on
were
it.
you
about.
born? What year were you
Please stop.
born? Sir, what year were you
19,
born?
1980.
let her go.
Okay, so you're born in the 80s. I just told you I'm 61 years old, okay? And I said things may have changed. I can bring you a lot of people who are mixed race and their birth certificate says black. My grandchildren for one, okay? So I'm just telling you what I know. So, and then whatever state you're in, maybe they do something different. Like some states allow felons to vote and other states don't. But what I am saying is, I think that starts the divide, making a child choose, because a mixed race person shouldn't have to choose anything. If my mom is white and my dad is black, or vice versa, or Chinese or whatever, why do I have to choose? I am both of those people.
So you
Now,
don't.
my features may look more like my mom or something, and if my mom is black and I come out with features looking like her, but it still doesn't take away of the fact that my dad is Chinese or whatever he may be, or if I come out looking more Chinese, it doesn't take away from the fact that my dad was black, like Condoleezza Rice. You know, she's her mom's from India, her is from Jamaica. Barack Obama, his mother is from Kansas, his father was from Africa.
Don't
So,
look like black people and have very black experiences.
which repeat that? Well, I think that most biracial people probably have a worse experience from the ones that I've talked to because they said they weren't accepted
No,
by
Hold
anyone.
on. Wait, hold on. Because now we got to start clearing some stuff up, Sylvia. I just looked up this census statistic, and it says people that identify with two or more races. It doesn't say mixed race.
That would be
So,
mixed race, wouldn't it be? If you
no,
identify with more than one race, then what does that
no,
mean?
because you could be Jewish and black. Racially, you're still a black person, but you pray a little differently. So, there are other
Well,
things
I'm
that
confused because when I worked as an enumerator, that's what that meant to us when we
well,
fill out the forms. Mixed race is if you are born of two different races.
yeah, but what you're doing, you're oversimplifying it because words matter. So you said that mixed race was the largest category of people in America,
Is
And
that
I
not
said,
what the census is saying?
but it's not all one thing. There are two or more races. So it's not just like mixed black and white. It's mixed anything and anything.
That's
And
what I said. You didn't listen. I said mixed
Right,
race,
bro.
no matter
Because
what you were mixed
wait, hold
with,
on.
whether
I'm
you
still
were
not
black
finished.
and white,
I
Chinese and
I
black,
understand. I
Puerto
understand.
Rican and white. It's
Ma'am,
just mixed
ma'am,
race
But,
people.
ma'am,
but
please
see,
stop.
Puerto Rican is not a race either, and that's what I'm trying to say. Is some people that it gives leeway for people that don't understand what race is to also do that. But another thing is that it says that the total number of people that even claimed two or more races is 33.8 million, and the United States is 332 million.
And I say for the people that filled
Right.
out the census, everyone doesn't fill out the census. I said that
No,
before I
I
even stated
understand
what they
that. I
said.
understand that. But in order for you to qualify them being the largest people group in the United States, you would have to make up for 10 times the amount that's listed on the US Census. It says 38 million. I mean, I'm sorry, 33.8 million. And there are 332 million white people living in America. So,
This is what people don't understand. The the government is only going to go by the census. So if you don't fill out the census, you're not counted. That's why your city and states don't get the funding from the federal government they should get. So I mean, I understand what you're saying because I've been taking census since 1980, knocking on doors because I understand the importance of it. So that's the number that they're going to deal with because those are the people that allowed themselves to be counted. All of the other people that didn't count, didn't fill out, it don't mean anything to the government in the paperwork. And so that's why and I said before, I said, this is census information. Everybody doesn't fill it out. I said that.
mhm. Well, if
can
they
I
all
chime in
had,
real quick?
if mixed meant one thing, then I could see how what you're saying could sound like relevant. Just because mixed means so many different things, I don't think you know, like identifying as two or more races is something else, you know, and then to only make up a small percentage of the country.
Right.
uh,
Like
I don't think
imagine like a
that
white Jewish person saying they identify as two different races, but they identify as white and as Jewish.
Right.
exactly.
Can I
It's
chime in
because
real
you're a
quick?
white person.
Because the numbers are skewed because of all the white people who identify as biracial because they think they're Cherokee. So four
Yeah, yeah,
percent basically
but
of
it
that
also
10% is a lie, at least. And then a whole
well,
bunch of people who are mixed race aren't identifying because they think they're like just Mexican or just black. And a bunch of black people are actually biracial. Like, well, I don't know how you want to consider it, but how they want us to count it, that's their definition. But the numbers are skewed. But the numbers that Brother Legend just read, that's what I was trying to point out. We're people who identify as biracial or two or more races is a very small number of people in the country,
Yeah, I
and the
think
majority of those people are white Native American.
mathematically it's just a word soup, right? It's a way for them to be disingenuous around and
Right.
resource distribution. What I am more concerned about, though, is the first point that she made with the EEOC. That's some diabolical shit to allow black people to sue other black people for racism because what it allows them to do is in 10, 20, 30 years after it's happened enough to say, see, we have legal precedents. Of course, black people can be racist. Look at this black person who was sued by another black person for racism.
Girl,
That's
let's talk
diabolical.
about that
That's
because
why I brought
the
that point up.
case the case is called Walker versus the Secretary of Treasury. It came out of Atlanta in 1984. I think it was the year after the book Colorism was written or published or whatever. Um, and so basically, it was a light skinned woman who was fired by a darker woman and replaced with a darker woman. And she won her case, but the Supreme Court cited the Civil Rights Act of 1866, not 1968, right? So it was basically saying at first, before the appeal, that two people of the same race couldn't be racist towards each other. And then during the appeal, they said that it was basically like colorism. and that it could be founded because they were using the lighter skinned woman as a pseudo white target. But that was the opening of the door for this new race to like have a legal precedence. So it's a really interesting case. It's online. You can read it for free on like uslaw.com or whatever. Yeah.
Well, the reason I brought it up is so that Black people now in the workplace can be aware, because you're not aware. It just really went into effect for EEOC within the last year or two. That it's even when you file your complaint, you will see it on there. But you now need to be extremely careful.
Mm. Well, let's
Something about that. You have
yeah, let's
colorism,
move
what?
on. It's Mika. Could you give us your age, race, and pronouns?
Oh yeah, so I mean, just focusing on that particular subject. I remember I was hired. The
Your
staff.
age, race, and
It
pronouns,
was,
please.
huh?
Your age, your race, and your pronouns.
Oh, 37. She, her, and black.
All right, talk to us.
Okay, so I remember I was hired. This was about maybe 8 years ago. Now the whole colorism thing is still happening. It's even in the workplace. I remember online. I had the online interview. I kid you not. This woman, she only hired light skinned women. I do not know what was up with that, but I felt it was like a colorism. It was a colorism thing. And maybe she thought I was like light skin, like, like the rest of the staff. But when she actually met me for the interview, she was like, oh, okay. But she gave me a chance though. She let me be hired. But everybody else after that were all light skinned. I'm trying to figure out, I know good and well there's other races or other tones that apply for these positions. I'm trying to figure out why is only light skinned folk getting in these positions.
That sounds like a nightmare. That's crazy.
It was crazy. I said this don't make no sense.
Wow.
White or black?
Have y'all read the Willie Lynch letter? Willie Lynch letter.
Yeah.
In
What
the
was
in the in there, he talks about how we're pit against each other. So when the oppressor starts to make ways for us to sue each other in court, you think that's to divide or unite us? You know what I'm saying? Do y'all think they want us to come together, or you see what I'm saying? They find ways to divide us time and time again. Is this one? Is
uh,
this another trick?
I mean, yeah, but like, I don't. I mean,
Because why do they care about colorism? You telling me they don't care about the infant mortality rate of our sisters? They don't care about police brutality. They don't care about all the other
so
types of
the
disparities and things going on in our community. The one thing that the Yonkie in chief decided to care about, the person in charge, you know what I'm saying, decided, you know what, we got to stop colorism in the black community. This is a very pressing issue, guys. Like they don't do that to help the black community. They don't do that to help liberate us. So that's why I think that is diabolical that they're coming up with that. Um, we got to talk about colorism, but that's wild.
no, so like the last case I did was a Mexican dude telling me how I hate myself because I'm mixed, right? And he would just, but he's mixed, right? He also said, well, no, he didn't say it, but the white guy at the same company though, he said he was like he thought I was Hispanic, so he was like talking about how he's going to be transracial
All right,
and identify as a black person. And I was like, oh wow, that's offensive on so many different levels. But
wait,
um,
hold on, Freeman. It's Mika. Did you want to answer any of the questions?
Let's see.
He was up there for a minute. So,
Yeah, I feel like biracials, even if they're black biracial, yeah, I feel like they have their own separate identity. Yeah, but it just depends on like how what makes them the biracial that they are. Is it white biracial? Hispanic biracial? Are they like black Asian? It's just that whole like separate identity for themselves, you know. And it could be a unique thing, you know. They have strengths within both races, so they
What's
just have to
unique
find
about
that
it?
within themselves.
What's unique about it?
What's unique about like being biracial?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm making a sandwich, but yeah, what's unique about the biracial identity? What how does it change?
I think like for biracial people, like okay, let's just take a lot of biracials that we know are black and white or black and Asian. Those are like the predominant black races, racial biracials that we do see.
Uh-huh.
And I think even in sports, a black Asian biracial is like they have a good advantage being both. Now don't ask me why, but they're really doing well with that. I don't know why,
So
but
it's tied to you're saying it's tied to athleticism? You're saying uh there's some type of what do you mean? Like there's some type of genetic superiority there, or what do you mean?
it could be.
That's deep.
I don't know. It's really hard to explain it. I think they got to do more like studies on it, but they are
Yeah.
seeing a lot of like Asians, black and Asian biracial children are they're really excelling. They're excelling academically. They're excelling in sports. They're excelling like
Sure.
they are. So, but
You don't think it's
they're
due
doing
to
more
maybe
studies
the
on that.
Asian parent is teaching them that? Because over even in, I mean, most countries, their children excel farther than American students. I was just looking at uh, something the other day where kindergartners over in China, kindergartners now, they welding, they doing everything. And I'm like, wow, this is they look kindergarten kids. And I mean they building with a hammer and doing nails, sawing and all of that. But Asian people are strict on education. So if you got an Asian parent that's involved in your life, you're gonna it's not that you're born smart, you're gonna study. You ain't gonna be on the TV, you ain't gonna be on a game, you ain't gonna be outside with your friends. You're gonna be in the books.
Somebody said free time.
Asian people don't go through what black people go through, so I don't think it's fair to compare the two. To be honest,
I think part of the problem is that when, like, in the live, um, we were talking about biracials, and everybody had the understanding we were talking about black and white biracials, or black and other biracial. And then it came in, I think, when the statistics about the EEOC was getting brought up, it was like all the other races are now like Asian and white, Native American and white, um, Native American and Asian, I guess, whatever, like whatever's
so
possible.
I just want to
So
clarify again because it's Mika said that the reason the biracial experience is different is because they're superior genetically. Would you be
No,
wrong?
I didn't use the word superior. I didn't say
Well, no,
superior.
yeah,
because you brought
you
up
were sounding a little
sports as if
eugenics, but
you brought up sports as if it
No, I'm
made
just
you more
saying both
brilliant.
races because they said the black race are we're very strong, we're very fast, we're very quick. Now Asians
Cool.
they might not be good in that category, but I'm telling you, like biracials for being black and Asian together, man, they're something else. They're a force.
what about the Samoans
She's
Why
or
are
the
saying
they a
that because
Tongans?
force?
she's saying that because she dated Asian.
Nah, that
Oh,
ain't
so
it.
it's like yo,
That's
it's
not
a
it. That's not it.
accusation going on right now.
No,
Like,
no, 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 no.
no,
That's
Well,
not
I
it.
hate to
no,
bring
right,
up
sis.
statistics
No,
again, but
right.
Even if I was a black man, I'm still gonna think like, okay, yeah, them biracial Asian and blacks, yeah, yeah. I mean,
per
hey, we giving props to blacks
ancestry.com,
too. Now, come on.
per ancestry, Asians come from blacks. They are the black. They fall under the black
I know,
genetics.
Sister Sylvia, you gonna keep diverting us from where we trying to go with everything. You gonna, go ahead, Black Swan. You was about to say something.
Yeah, I was kind of in and out of the conversation, but I think that we have to be very careful when we explain and interpret these things because if we go down the wrong path, that could lean into, play into white supremacy. And we're trying to reject that, right? We want to reject white supremacy. And I think that we need to understand what the words are, what their proper definitions are. I think we need to understand context and all of those things, right? Um, I keep hearing the word mixed thrown around. Mixed is a very dehumanizing term. It is a term that we no longer use. I know that in other places that have a different type of history and a different language, that, you know, they were colonized differently, the hierarchy is still the same of race, right? They may use different terms, but here, at least specifically in the US, I think it is appropriate to use the term biracial and understand that that is just a descriptive word. It means that you have one parent that's one race and another parent that is another race, right? It does not tell us what your phenotype is. For example, if I go to somebody and I say, "Hey, I'm bilingual," does that tell you what the two languages that I speak are? No. I would have to tell you what those two languages are, right? So
Right.
that, with that being said, it's just a descriptive word, and it is not its own racial category. I keep hearing, you know, people project, not on this panel, but just in general, when we have these conversations, I'll hear people say, well, oh, they're going to try to make this a race, they're going to try to make that a race, you know. I don't necessarily think that that is the case. I think that, you know, we should focus on breaking down the things that in the words, you know, and the definitions that we know that pertain to right now, and to stick with those things. And the other thing about the Latino and Hispanic thing, there are people in like different countries, like Puerto Rico. I had a conversation a few days ago. I was on a panel where we are talking about um, I believe there are three guests from Mexico who were talking about decolonizing their minds and not using the term mestizo anymore, and, you know, making sure that they properly identify themselves as YT, even though they know that some people in their community won't. So when you know, I think we gotta be careful, because I heard somebody say they're trying to make Latino and Hispanic a race. We know that that can't be its own racial category. Latino, it just literally describes where you come from, the origin. Latin America, and Hispanic just means that you come from a Spanish speaking country. So, you know, I think when we try to, you know, I don't know, mix everything up with our words and our definitions and things, then it gets confusing for people. Um, you know, we just gotta, if you don't know, look it up. Ask somebody that you know is knowledgeable about it, because we don't want to, you know, allow YT supremacy to get us even more confused and have us arguing with each other and trying to clock somebody's blackness. You know, I think that that can become problematic. So I just wanted to say that. That's it.
That was well said, Black Swan. That's what I was trying to point out, and that was me saying that earlier. But that was what basically I was trying to say, was that it's just muddying everything up, and I don't know. Like, I disagree with just about that point about like mestizos identifying as white, so they can just go identify as white now. Um, like they'll be browner than me and understand how the one drop rule or how the racial caste system works in America, but at the same time think that they're white even though they look like indigenous mixed people. So I think it is a problem. I don't think they should just be allowed to just identify with whatever they want to,
Well,
regardless
no,
of phenotype.
the Mexican people that were in the discussion that I had with, they were YT, like they looked YT, so they were well within their right to say that that is how they identify. And the conversation was about, and this happens with, I clock it every time, right? It happens with a lot of countries where they speak Spanish. It's very frustrating, but a lot of times a YT Hispanic person or a YT Latino person will come into the conversation and try to, you know, I guess, rid themselves of accountability when we're talking about racism, and try to hide behind that identity, Latino or Hispanic. You will hear people fight to the ends of the earth saying, "No, I'm Puerto Rican," or "I'm Latino." You know, "I'm not YT." But the group of people that I spoke with are accepting the fact that they are YT, that their community, you know, people in their community have to do the same. They acknowledge the fact that they have privilege, and they think that it's important that, you know, the rest of their communities follow along, because they
Right.
want to be able to, the problem is nationalism. That's what the issue is. It's nationalism, right? In Puerto Rico, for example, I'm Puerto Rican. You will have YT Puerto Rican people that will come into a conversation thinking they can say the N word, right? They
Yep.
can talk about experiencing racism and all of those things. No, you cannot. You cannot. You are Puerto Rican, yes, right? Nationality, you grew up there, okay. But you are YT. You benefit from YT supremacy. So if you use the N word, you're, well, I mean, obviously they already are racist, but that is an act of racism. And it also diminishes when they try to hide behind that identity, it diminishes the experiences of indigenous Latino or Hispanic people or Black Latino and Hispanic people. So to me, I think it's important. I will clock it every single time. I will always clock it because it has to be stopped. But the Mexican people that I spoke with talked about accepting the fact that they are YT and that they need to do the work to unpack and decolonize so they're not causing harm to their community.
Right. And I was trying
That's
to come up with it. I was
interesting.
trying to come up
That's
to a
interesting,
term.
Black Swan. Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
That's interesting, Black Swan. Uh, because they've made whiteness a burden, but they still also identify. That's very that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
bro. Like, so basically, it's like the brown people from like Mexico and Cuba or whatever, Puerto Rico that I meet are telling me that they're either Puerto Rican, whatever nation they come from, or they're white. And then the white guys that are actually white from those places are like, "Oh, I know, bro. I'm a minority too. I've been going through it with you too. I know exactly what you go through." And I'm just like, what is going on in this world? Where like, what did the Spanish do to y'all? Because in 2010, 90% of Puerto Ricans on the island identified as white on the U.S. Census. And
But
then 2020, there was like the largest racial reversal that ever happened in history in 10 years.
I think the
And I,
problem is that it's the way that white supremacy has played out over time, right? For example, in the US, the one drop rule, that is not something that we use anymore, right? That was ruled unconstitutional in 1967. The point of the one drop rule was to keep YT pure, right? So it was said that if you have a drop of whatever the case is, right, then you cannot claim the YT identity, which is it is eugenics, it is blood quantum, and it's problematic, and it is pseudoscience, right? But there are some people that aren't educated on these things, so they don't know any better. So, which is why we have these discussions, so we can clear things like this up and we're not, perpetuating harmful things onto each other.
Mo,
sorry, I should be more sensitive about it. I don't mean to say like
come
the
on,
English didn't do to us what
Mo.
they did,
I mean,
but yeah,
Freeman.
go
Freeman.
ahead. Sorry.
Somebody new. Smoke. Age, roast, and pronouns.
Hi everyone, I'm over 18. I'm black and my pronouns are she, her.
thank you. Talk to us.
I'm sorry, what you said?
Yes,
Talk to us.
brother, talk to us.
Oh, okay, okay, I heard you. Yeah, I just want to say, like, biracials have had a long history of othering themselves from the black community. The brown paper bag came from them. They were creating sororities and fraternities and clubs with the brown paper bag, where if you were darker than the brown paper bag, you wasn't admitted. There was blue vein societies, where if your blue vein wasn't showing in your arm, then you didn't get admittance. And so, we've had a long history of biracials wanting to other themselves from the black community, and it's just very harmful. I don't like it when you say that the black community, where you just say you don't fit in with either white or black people. Um, Black people have always been welcoming. You have always othered yourself from the black community, so that is a reason why you're not fitting in. There is no reason to say that you are biracial when you present as black. What substance does that bring to the conversation other than you wanting to get some type of special privilege for it? And that is my thoughts.
That's facts. Absolutely.
Puff.
Go ahead, dude.
I was trying to puff it, and I'm stuck.
I mean, does anybody else
Sir,
disagree, or is it
you
just me?
gotta stop. You gotta stop, bro. Hello, hello.
Would you say that difference in
Y'all
skin
must be
color?
deaf as hell, cause I've been being real nice, but y'all would just keep cutting in. Please go on mute. Thank you. Hello, hello, and welcome in. You are in. Brother Legends Live again. You are in. Brother Legends Live. I need you to tap that screen. Tap, tap, tap. Power, tap that screen. Why are we not at 50K?
Get to 75K ASAPPP like those hot check shower writing, and all y'all asses is going to jail. Tap the screen, share the live, invite your friends, your enemies, invite the poon's enemies. But for the most part, I need you guys to subscribe here and on YouTube and follow Brother Legend on Twitter. You guys, make sure you join B1initiative.org so you can be a part of something that we're building. Great for, with, and about Black people. It's time to learn about your Africanity, y'all. Sankofapedia, more information coming soon. Anyways, make sure you guys are subscribed and make sure that you're tuned in and turned up to all the new and creative things that are going on. At the end of the day, tap the screen, share the live, and make sure you gift your host. He does have a gift goal, y'all. Now go ahead and tap that screen and send some of them gifts. All right, I'm tapping out. You tap up.
Appreciate you, D. Oh wait, did they have my sound back? Hey, they got the sound back. That button was gone. All right. So did somebody else want to say something? I think Sylvia was about to say something.
He said he disagreed, and then Miss Sylvia came off. I don't know. They both want to say something.
Well, I mean, I feel like a lot of biracial people feel that they have been excluded, like, preemptively, right? So, like, almost like a prejudice. You know, like, there's this side eye that exists.
Because
So it's not like,
they think they're going to get the same level of inclusion that they see their white parents have in the white community, just based on
right.
phenotype. But the black community has always been anti-blackness exists, and I mean, I'm not saying that's what they're experiencing, but there's black people that are monoracial in the community don't always feel accepted by the community. The only people that struggle with that is biracial people or people with an identity crisis that have a negative association with their Africanness. But I would say that's not unique to the biracial experience.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I would
think a lot
definitely
of,
Exactly.
agree.
I think biracials now they're creating their own communities, getting to know like what they're all like, yeah, I don't know. I think they're all creating their own communities now,
Where's the biracial community?
I really see it anywhere else other
Level in
than
a state
TikTok.
of
You know,
delusion. If black
there's
biracial
really not
people,
that many of us,
yeah, like that.
so
That's no.
because I
we're
don't
just
know,
like,
maybe because they, on both sides they're just not getting accepted on both sides. But another biracial person will probably accept another biracial person. Would that not be true?
It doesn't make
mm,
sense, right? Because two,
Biracial
it
nah.
doesn't
person
make
question.
it doesn't
There's
make
still
sense.
colorism amongst biracials.
It
And
doesn't
Sorry,
make
go.
sense, and colorism doesn't work like that. It doesn't make sense because two monoracial black parents can make children from white skin all the way up to dark skin. Um, they can make children with loose curls, tight curls. Um, so when you say that
That's
black
because they're
people don't
already mixed.
no, that does not mean that. What are you talking about?
to eat.
That's not.
That means it
Um,
reaches back into the original woman and
exactly.
benefits all people.
Exactly. And so what I'm saying is that we can make children from with two black parents, with all types, and they're not treated differently. They're not ostracized from the community. I think that you wanting to other yourself from the black community ostracizes you because it doesn't make sense. I think that you scream that you're biracial because one of your white parents have privilege and you are not getting that privilege because your skin don't match theirs. And so you scream and scream that you're biracial. You make it your whole personality because you want this privilege and it's not happening for you.
So do two biracial people make a black person?
What do you mean by person?
Race is a
So
They're
phenotype,
two,
right?
they're
Race is a
two black
race
phenotype.
people.
It's how you
race is a
present.
phenotype. It's how you
Yes,
present.
it's how you
So where's
present.
the
So when
phenotype begin
people
and
look
end?
at
So
you,
what happened to
when
Ebony to
people
Ivory?
when people look at you, right? Do they see a black person? Do they see a white person? Do they see an Asian person? Do they see a Pacific Islander? It's a little bit different for indigenous people, but it's about phenotype. It's how you present to the society. That is what race is.
So
If
do you
you
know what
have a
hypo?
wide
Do you know
nose,
what
if you have a
hypo
flat
descent
wide
is?
nose, you already know what category they're gonna put you in. So let's be real.
Do you know what hypo descent is?
I'm trying to understand what you're getting at. Because you just sat here and said two black biracial people have a child together and asked if it would be black.
Yeah, would they be black or would they be biracial?
How would they be biracial if you just said the two people was black?
That's what I'm saying. If
You're
two
not making any sense.
biracial
You
black
said if
kids
two black
have
biracials have a child together, then they started two black people having a child together.
right,
No, you need to get it right in your head.
just think about it a little harder. Just come on.
No, because
Let's
it's
be like
Eh,
critical thinkers about this
hypotheticals,
shit.
hypotheticals
It's
is
not a
lazy work.
hypothetical. It's not a
It's lazy
hypothetical.
work. It is a
It's not even a
hypothetical.
hypothetical. No, it's not.
Oh my goodness.
So what do you think they make?
Come on, y'all.
A unicorn. Like what are we talking about here? You don't get
Let's
to
just do
tread the
simple
line.
math. Let's just
You
do
don't get
simple
to tread
math.
the line between black
Let's
and
just
white.
do simple.
That
Come on.
you
Let's
don't get
do
to
it.
tread the line between black and
There's
white.
no
Wait,
treading of the
okay, hold
line.
on real quick, everybody, because there's a lot of noise in the background. You guys are talking over each other. I wanted to respond to the biracial comment that was made earlier. So again, that is just a descriptive word. There really is no quote unquote like sense of a biracial community, because when you say biracial, we don't know what two races you are talking about specifically, right? And I think that we have to understand too, and Brother Legend just said this, monoracially black people can go through, having a lot of anti-blackness that they have not unpacked. And I would that's what I would label it as, right? Like when a black biracial person comes around black people and they are othering themselves, it's usually because they're saying and doing things that are anti-black. So they're being side-eyed, but there are monoracially black people that go through that as well. And we all have a level of anti-blackness that we have to unpack because of indoctrination. And I think a lot of times too, we tend to leave out transracial adoptees from this conversation. And I've heard some insane stories. I'm not going to put anybody else's story out there. I'm sure some of you may have heard some, trigger warning, but I've heard some insane stories about, the things that they have dealt with being adopted by YT parents. We see it with celebrities, right? It was quite literally trendy for these YT celebrities to adopt, black children, but they know nothing about blackness, right? They don't have to. There's no incentive for them to look outside of themselves. And YT women are like this too, the YT parents. They don't have any incentive to look outside themselves and actually get to know their child's experiences. So I think we can't necessarily say that this is what monoracially black people go through, this is what biracial black people go through, and this is what transracial adoptees go through, right? Because you have some black biracial people who understand who they are from day one, right? And also I think we have to remember too, because I think you were saying, JE, that people say that you look Hispanic or something like that. That's not true. We got to stop saying things like that, because there is no one look to it, or even to biracial, right? My you can have two black people that come together that are dark skinned, and they can give birth to a very light skinned child, right? You can have a YT person and a black person come together, and they can give birth to a dark skinned child. So, I think that we have to I guess understand the words, the definitions, and really like critically think about these things. That way we're not misleading people or, causing harm, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and I appreciate your clarification because I do get a little jumpy. Um, but it's just I try to do my best to study up on genetics and all this stuff and like understand